Welcome, ladies. Welcome, welcome. We're so glad that you're here today. My name is Lou Whitaker. In case I didn't get a chance to meet you, I'm the principal here at Pope John Paul, the Second Catholic School, and we have a real opportunity here. And we'll go into more detail about this, but I want to welcome you here, first of all, to our school. And all of those, some of you are online. We're broadcasting this live, and so we thought this is a good experience for schools all around the nation are actually going to be tuning in to us and watching this little presentation. But what I would like to do is, before I introduce everybody and so forth, we would like to start with a prayer. Being a Catholic school, we always start in prayer with all of our meetings. And I realize that we have many of you from Citrus County, and non-Catholics, so we want to respect you also. So I looked for a really good prayer, and I thought this one was rather appropriate. This is the age of technology, and especially with BrainWare Safari being the use of computer programs and technology. When I worked for the Archdiocese of Milwaukee, I was technology coordinator for the diocese, and Bishop Skilba was wonderful. He was our bishop, and he loved technology, and he actually wrote this prayer that we always prayed before anything to do with a computer program. So if we can place ourselves in the presence of our Lord, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Bless again this day the mysterious computer, which awaits your power of my human effort. Grant wisdom, knowledge, and a clear memory to my mind, as I sit before this new creature of your infinite power. Bless my heart with endless patience whenever needed. Guide my hands that I may be your faithful servant at every key I press. Enable my limited efforts to bring glory to your name and blessings to your people everywhere. Delete me not from your kingdom, and save me from all fear and from all error of sin and ignorance. I whisper this prayer mindful of the needs of all with whom and for whom I work, through the power of your word and life-giving energy of your Spirit. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So obviously we can use prayer at any time, especially when we're sitting down before. As I said, I'm the principal here at Pope John Paul Catholic School, and I'm going to be introducing Mr. Roger Stark. He is an incredible person you're going to find out in just a minute, and we'll go into details of how I became interested in the program, the results we're having at our school, how you can implement that in your school and get similar results. His main office is in Chicago, and so forth. This is all information that we can provide for you to contact him in that. You should have your three handouts. You all have three handouts, and then we'll pick up your registration later on for that wonderful drawing at the end. This was really nice. I asked Roger, I said, we're going to do this live and so forth, but I would really like to get people, an audience there so I can interact and so forth. And I said, would you be willing to give away like 2 or 3 licenses? And he says, I'll do better than that. Everyone that comes, you get your own license, and so that belongs to you personally. You can take it home and use it yourself, which I would recommend, or give it to a student, that's fine. But he says, but we'll also have a drawing. I'll give away 30 licenses to somebody in this room. So, and when you go online, if you purchase the program online, that's $150 per license. That's $4,500 that he's giving away, which was what they gave away at the Learning and Brain Conference, but for him to give this away to this group, I'm very thankful. Yes, we are very grateful. Stacy's not here. She's from Nativity Catholic. She's going to be presenting tomorrow, but I do have her test results because they have been using the BrainWare. But I want to back up. Miss Abby Rump right here. She's our media specialist here at the school and has been with us for a number of years. But when I first found out about BrainWare Safari, then she came to me one day and said, I'm looking for something to help my son. I said, I just heard about this new program. So she has been instrumental in really implementing the program here. She now is a trainer for BrainWare on the day that she's off, because she's only part-time with us. So if you are interested in doing any of this, your trainer is right here in Citrus County. So that's another plus, which is great.
Very, very, very.
Yes, she is. She's a great trainer. This is our basic outline. First of all, I'm going to be introducing Roger, and he's going to be talking about how the software program was conceived or created, because when I heard the history of this, It's really quite fascinating. Then how I was introduced to the program. How did I hear about it? How I became involved with the software. Then we set up our own pilot program here, a test pilot program, and the results that I saw. But then we wanted some solid research because just getting, teachers' opinions or kids' opinions. So the company really supported us, and we can show you how they helped us collect all the research that we needed. I'll go into, I asked Stacy, can I just share your results? She said, absolutely, please do. Abby's going to actually get into the program then. You're tired of hearing us talk the whole time. So we'll show you, demonstrate the program. Then we'll give you ideas on how you can implement this in your school, the things that we did wrong, the things that we would highly recommend to really make this a successful program. Then Roger's going to come back again. I've asked Roger to talk. This program is being implemented in many, many different ways, in high schools and special ed programs. He's received just some tremendous grants. Reach to the Top, I definitely want you to share that information of how you can really keep implementing this program. We'll have time, of course, for comments and questions, and feel free at any time. We're small enough group, just stop and ask a question. And then our students, the lab is right across the hall, so at the end, we're going to just go across the hall. We've asked about 10 kids, I think it is. They're just going to sit and play the game, so you can see the kids in action, and you can see exactly what's involved and what it would entail in your room. So that's basically it. So I want to introduce Roger. First, I think the formal introduction, then I'll give you my opinion. First of all, Roger Stark is the founder and CEO of Learning Enhancement Corporation. So it's a larger corporation. BrainWare is a part of that. The creator of BrainWare Safari cognitive skills development software. He had already had a successful career as a marketing entrepreneur. Thank you. In which he launched products as diverse as boats, computer publications, and video games. For the past 20 years, he's worked with extraordinary passion and commitment to realize his vision of combined neuroscience research with the best practices of video game technology. That vision, thanks to his abundant and tireless energy, which I can attest to, is improving the lives of students and teachers in schools, children's parents, grandparents at home, clients and patients in offices of therapists, and employees in the workplace across the United States and around the world.
I've never heard that before. That's the first time I've heard that.
I bet you did, okay? But now let me tell you about Roger, okay? I just met him last night, I'll be honest with you. I have talked to him on the phone ever since I started using the program. I did talk to him, now and then, but when I found out that he was coming down to Florida, I asked him, I invited him, I said, is there any chance you could come by and do a workshop for us, for Citrus County, because I know you guys are interested, you're already using the program, but also for our diocese. He said, this is quite an opportunity. I know you're really busy. If you can give us a couple hours, we'd really appreciate it. And he said, yes, sure, he'd love to do that. After talking to him and finding out he's involved in so much that in education, and he's been working very closely with Pat Wolf. If you don't know who Pat Wolf is, she's an outstanding leader in education and brain-based education. And she's written Building the Reading Brain as well as Brain Matters. And every year, I belong to this group called the Brain Bunch. And here's just a picture because we wanted to show the kids in our middle school. Every year in January, we meet together as a group, and she brings in 2 neuroscientists, and we sit down for 1 full week. And there's about 50 or 60 of us in the group. And we find out what's going on with the latest research in the field. And then how can we apply this research in the classroom. And so Pat has been asked to speak before Congress in January 23rd. And it's the first time that they've really been able to present the importance of teaching neuroscience, brain-based education, and to get it into our schools. Roger has been the key person behind this and setting this all up, working on the Hill to try and get this all squared away. So I thought this is a great opportunity. So right before you guys came, we brought him into our social studies classroom, our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and I said, could you please talk to him, the rest of the group, and explain how you're doing this, what's happening in education. He was outstanding. What a speaker. Roger, I'm blown away. I'm so grateful for what you did. He really talked about the importance of each child and how important they can become actively involved right now in what's happening on the Capitol and why your career and he covered so many things from prayer, which was great for our children, obviously, but setting your goals and your career and where you're headed. But I asked him, are they going to be videotaping the actual presentation on the 23rd? And he said, oh, yes, they are. I said, we need to have a copy of that so our children can follow up and see, wow, this is how a bill gets passed. This is how we get the monies and so forth. But I want to thank you again. That was incredible. The kids are still talking about it. So thank you so much, Roger. So, okay, I'll turn it over to Roger, and he can explain a little bit about how the program itself was created and the research that has been conducted. So, Roger, come on up here. All yours. Yay.
First of all, thank you for being here. I know how valuable time is. It's something we never have enough of, and we can never get it back. So I know that when you choose to give me your time, it's the greatest single gift that you'll ever give me. Because you can't take it back, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here, so thank you very much. Let's talk a little bit about how the program is conceived. I'm retired once, and most people's legacy is their children, typically. I wasn't blessed with that. I didn't have children. I have 11 godchildren. I have 6 girls and 5 boys, but I have no children. So as I had a marketing communications company with a number of offices in the United States, and I was talking somewhere about China, 2 offices in China, Latin America, and Europe, and we were the hired gun to take products to market. And as I started to sense my mortality, I was like, what have I really done to make the world a better place? What's going to be my legacy? I have to be a man of faith myself. Matter of fact, I went to college to be a minister. I thought I was going to be a minister, so when you hear me get going up here, you guys go, oh, well, you stopped preaching already? I was preaching in the pulpit at age 13 on Youth Sunday, but I decided not to travel that profession. But I do believe in serving causes greater than self. I think there's no higher calling than having an opportunity to serve a cause greater than you. And I think that's why all of you do what you do, because it's a calling. If you serve something greater than self, it's certainly the most satisfying. And I feel right now I've been blessed with the stewardship of an opportunity. I don't feel like a CEO, but it's a blessing to have this opportunity. I look forward every day to get up. So what had happened in my life, I decided, okay, I want to do something different. I'm going to retire. And I did something I would not advise anyone to do. I put out there that I had a little bit of money and I wanted to look at some stuff and I was willing to make an investment. I had friends and relatives come out of the woodwork I didn't even know I had. And so that was kind of a fun experience for me. But I listened to a lot of different things and a lot of different ideas about how people were making a difference in the world. And one day a couple of doctors walked in my office and they said, well, what do you know about the brain, Mr. Stark? I stopped. What do I know about the brain? Well, I think I got one. I think I use it. I really didn't know. I mean, it kind of threw me off guard a little bit. And it's something we always just seem to take for granted. We look at somebody and if they've got both hands and legs and an eye and a head, well, they're normal. Everything is, they should be able to do anything anybody else can do. We can't see. And he said, what if I tell you that the research that all the universities have said for years that all women are dumber than all men when it comes to math? That's not true. That's a fallacy. The only reason women feel they're not as good at math because everybody's told them they're not as good at math. But that is just absolutely not true. Women can be as good, or in many cases, better than men in math. Or what if I tell you that all blacks are not dumber than all whites, as they try to tell you? It's not true. It's a myth. So they start going down all these myths that have been perpetuated that just are not true. And so it fascinated me. So as I began to go down this journey, they had a product. I didn't develop this product. I'm not that smart, just so you know right off the bat. So if you're already like, why the hell is he talking to me? That's right, I didn't develop this product. So I started to, this product was developed over 35, almost 40 years of clinicians working one-on-one together. And how it came about, here's the typical story. When I talk to parents, I get an opportunity a lot of times to talk to a lot of parents in large groups, and I'll get this, yeah, I know. When a parent has a child and somewhere it's just not connecting in the classroom for their child. And at some point, you know, they go to dad, you know, Johnny's not doing so well. And dad says, you know, Mel Eagle, you know how misplaced Mel Eagle. Oh, don't worry about Johnny. Look at me, I didn't do well in the first grade. I'm a rock star. Mom goes for that. Then the second grade comes down the pike and Mom says, look, Johnny just said, get that. No, don't worry about it. I'm a rock star now. I didn't get the second. Well, Mom's buying that to the third grade. She ain't buying it. She's not going to Daddy. She's on her plight. She's going to find out why her child is not connecting in that classroom, because she knows her child is not stupid. Something's not connecting. And the teachers can't figure it out. Or they may try to put them in special ed. Not where they should be. So in that plight, they would end up eventually at something called the Woodcock-Johnson Cognitive Battery Achievement Test. Some of you may be familiar with it. Some of you may not. It's accepted in the scientific community and the educational community as the gold standard of testing where someone's gaps or weaknesses may be. So this test is, most schools don't do it because it's very expensive. I mean, a clinician will charge anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 or more to administer this one-on-one battery of tests. It's very, very expensive. And you have to be a doctor to be able to access it. So if you're not a doctor, you can't access it. But they would get to a clinician, and the clinician would run through these battery of tests. And then the doctor would sit down with the mother and say, here's exactly where your child sits. These are the gaps, these are the weaknesses, these are the strengths. And she'd say, great, now I know, let's fix it. And the doctor said, wait, whoa. I didn't tell you I could fix it. I guess I could tell you what the problems are. Therein was the birth of BrainWare. And what had happened, a couple of doctors got so tired of telling the parent there's nothing they could do about it, is they went on their plight, their search. And so they started working with what they knew. And so what collectively had happened is over about 300 clinicians on about 4 different continents were trading information in trial and error. This kind of work, that kind of work. What do you got on this? And this one's she's a speech and language pathologist, and she's a clinical psychologist, and she's a vision developmental person, she's auditory, she's a neurologist. And all of these best practices all have something to say about how the brain works. And they all have very good stuff. But the fallacy is, the universities tell their students that they have all the answers. If you're going to school as speech and language pathologist, and that's going to be your degree, they've told you you have all the answers. And you've got good stuff, but you don't have all the answers. In the school of neurology, they're the most arrogant of all. They don't want to talk to anyone. They don't talk to vision schools, auditory, nothing. They got all the answers. Not true. You got some good answers, but you don't have all the answers. And our doctors were willing to put their ego aside and listen to other people. So when they got a neurologist that was willing to talk about it, they wanted to listen. And the vision person wanted to talk, they wanted to listen. Clinical psychologists wanted to talk, they want to listen. So you had all of the best practices pulling together. And so in this trial and error, they tried this skill, this and that. And say, well, how did you come up with the skills that you got? If you look at this paper, there's 41 skills. They say, well, how did you come up with these skills? And what we've done with these skills, you have the clinical term on the left, and then we try to put some common language nomenclature on the right, so you can immediately start to see where the value proposition lies in perfecting that skill and how it relates to what takes place in the classroom. Now, they tried all kinds of stuff and all kinds of formulations, and these are the skills. The reason these were ultimately selected is they were the skills that drove the greatest, and you're not going to like this term, intellectual growth, or I'll make it more comfortable, cognitive growth, because some people say intellect can't be changed, and I'll argue that day all day long, in the shortest period of time. The greatest intellectual, the greatest cognitive growth in the shortest period of time that was sustainable and transferable. It has to be sustainable. It has to be transferable. That's why these skills were selected. Now, what makes it so powerful, and these guys coming back and forth, is that it's the architecture of the structure of how these skills are built within this program, which is different than anything that you've seen. You've heard Lumosity, scientific learning, fast forward. I can address all those subjects for you and answer any of your questions that you would like to have. We've researched this thoroughly. But the architecture of how this product builds skills is different than anything you've seen. It's a highly comprehensive, integrated approach. This goes against all of the university teachings today. John Hopkins is just starting a program on mind-brain, as has Harvard, or their master's program, because they don't typically teach this stuff in universities. This stuff is coming down the pipe. But even the universities are still on the back end of this. They haven't quite figured it out. They haven't been doing it as long as our guys have. Our guys have been doing this now for over 40 years. They just haven't caught up yet. I'll tell you about what's going on in that, because we got some exciting work coming up with those folks. But this is how this product was built. And then once we did that, and recognized what they were able to do, and they came to me through some friends and wanted me to step in. They were doing the product one-on-one in a clinic, and they were charging anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000 for this one-on-one therapy. And you say, well, why such a disparity of price? Depending on the geographical community. So in this case, if you lived in the Hamptons on Long Island, in New York, and you wanted the lead doctor, you paid him 15 grand to work 72 hours with your child. Now, if you're in, the poor east side of Indianapolis, where I came from, you probably get the job done for $2,500. It just depends on what the economics of the community is. But, it was amazing, but regardless of whether it worked or didn't work, if you're going to have a business proposition, you have to look at all the drivers that's going to drive a successful business. And sure, does everybody want everything to work right? Yeah. But do we have unlimited money? No. Do we have unlimited time? No. Do we have unlimited expertise? No. So if you're going to try to work in an environment, you have to look at all the things that shape that environment. And so even though it was an amazing program, you're not going to get me $3,000 or $4,000 for every student. Not that you don't want to, you just can't afford it. So they wanted me to take this and update it and modernize it, because they did their homework on my skills and my background. And I said, guys, you got the wrong guy. I'm not interested. I'm not a man of exclusion. I'm a man of inclusion. I want to do something that can touch the world in some of our greatest places of need. I come from a lower economic, social background with a working mother for $1 an hour, working on a factory, supporting 2 boys. I started working at 9 years old, paying $2.50 a week, $10 a month to put clothes on my mother and my brother's back. I saw kids in serious trouble. I happened to be one of the lucky ones. I seemed to get things pretty quick, so I did well. But I can't tell you the number of kids that I had to help. And that's the community I want to fill into. Not that there aren't problems in the upper scale of the community, there are. But that's what drove this process for me, my mission. So I said, what I would like to look at is to see if we can take this one-on-one therapy and propagate or transfer it into a digital environment. Because if I can do that, and I didn't know if I could or couldn't, and why I wanted to go there is because I knew a lot about video games. I took all Spielberg's products to market before he launched DreamWorks. I launched EA Sports, Tiger Active Learning. So I knew a lot about video games. I wanted to see if we could take this highly industrial strength therapy and propagate it into a digital environment, right? And then put a layer of engagement on it, video game, okay? And use the internet as a delivery mechanism to lower the price point to take the critical mass. So it's scalable, affordable. That was my mission. And so this is the story she loves. So I said, well, we're going to spend all this time and money. I said, I got X dollars. Let's put this over here. Let's get the best practicing clinicians that we can from all these different expertise. I had a big table, big conference. I said, I want a speech and language pathologist. I want a clinical psychologist. I want an occupational therapist. I want neurologists. I want vision people. I want all these disciplines at one table. One of the biggest nightmares I ever encountered in my life. I was a little naive. I probably am still today, a little stupid. I come from the business world, so I think I can handle myself pretty well in a business environment, and legal and lawyers. And I always thought that, well, quite frankly, educators and doctors and things were always ever higher up. You got to realize where I come from the lower social economic level. They're more moral, they're more honest, they're more this. Boy, I had to take a ride on Clue Cruise. So I hired a woman to run this for me. And she was the most powerful woman in the video game. She was the first CEO in the video game world. Readers ever never forget her. Tough lady, tougher than nails. So I had another company, marketing communications. So I said, you're going to run this initiative, so get them in here. And let's get everybody's input before we start bringing programmers and developers and stuff in. Let's see if there's any new stuff. Let's don't build this product on one doctor like a lot of these egotistical people do. Let's build it on the knowledge at the university level. What do they know? What are the speech and language pathologists doing today in the universities? What are their best practices? What's neurology's best practices? Vision, auditory. And let's make sure we're getting that in it, and make sure we're always set up to take the new unknowns that become knowns and bring them into our stuff. So they like that. So now we're sitting there, and they're all trying to get together. And they're all very accomplished people. They've been doing what they've been doing for 30 years or more. They knew their stuff. And they would get into these discussions. Rita came and said, you're not going to believe this. Because we're starting to, I'm paying for all their time, by the way. It wasn't cheap. So they're starting it, and she says, you got to come in and sit down with these meetings. So what would happen? I said, okay, I'll come in. And those of you who don't know me, you probably already figured out, I like to talk. I talk too much, I talk too fast, I talk too loud. But in this meeting, I didn't say a word. Now that's an unusual thing for me. So I go into this meeting, and I'm sitting there, and they're all talking, and your PhDs in vision, and you're talking about, now you have a clinic, and you've been involved for a long time in vision therapy, but when you have a clinic, you put a lot of tools in your clinic. So when an individual comes into your clinic, whatever their challenge might be, you try to, number one, eliminate their challenge, or if you can't, you try to develop some sort of managed plan to optimize as much normacy in that individual's life as they possibly can, right? So you may have lots of, even though your PhDs in vision, you may have some auditory tools, you may have some different kind of tools over this thing, all kinds of tools, so you bring them in. So you've done a lot of, even though your degree's not that, you've done a lot of different things. So you start talking about auditory, and she knows that your PhD's in vision. So what she says, her PhD's in auditory. Excuse me, Dr. So-and-so, what exactly is your PhD in again? Politely telling her to shut up. Man. So I sit and listen to this stuff go on. So I just sat there and listened. And the reader said, can you believe this? I said, well, I'm a little shocked. I mean, I have to admit. What do you want to do? I said, I don't know what I want to do. I had to think about this one. I wasn't counting that problem. Well, I ran into a lot of problems, by the way, that I haven't figured out yet. So I said, okay. So I thought about it. I said, well, call another meeting. Maybe that was a bad day. Well, Roger, I said, no, I got to make sure. I'm going to make a move here. I've spent a lot of money, and I don't want to light a match to it all. If I can salvage something here. So we had another meeting. Same doggone. So I thought about it. Had another weekend. Called up. I said, Rita, call the team in. Get them in here. So I walk in. I hadn't said anything the first two meetings. That's hard for me. So I walked in. I walked around the room. I said, you're out. You're in. You're out. You're in. And one doctor, you can't talk to that lady. You understand who I am? I said, lady, I don't give a damn. Don't make the ass hit the door when you walk out. And I said, any of the rest of you that aren't here to work for a calling higher than self, and I want you to take all your degrees and everything and hang it on the door. You're coming in here today to work for something bigger than you. And that's for our students here in America. If we don't fix this education, we got nothing. Every other conversation is baloney. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And they stuck. The one who went out, she was a little pissed. I think she still doesn't like me. But I had to get more people in. But I found, and I told them, we want a collaborative process. You've been doing this for, you can say, I want a safe environment that you can work with your college, and you feel free that you can say anything you want regardless whether you have a degree this, degree that. Talk about your experience. We want the best you bring to the party. And we finally got a group that did that. And then we built the most powerful, scalable, affordable tool in the world. Now then, and then it became a challenge because then you got, now you're going to work together. Now we're going to put these procedures together. So these things, we have metrodomes in here, all this stuff. And if you know doctors and clinicians, you know how they're very precise. This has to be a millimeter a second of that. This has to be this has to be that. And so we do these technology convergence, and we write it all up. And every doctor would have to look at the procedure. And every doctor had to sign off on a procedure before we would put one program on it. Well, that's not easy. By the way, it took us 4 years and $6 million. It wasn't an easy track because there was nobody to follow. There was no other program. There was nothing to do. There was no model to follow. We were creating our model, and we didn't know if it worked. We were hopeful, but we didn't know. So now, once we get the doctors together, guess what I do now? Now I really throw something in there. I bring in a bunch of video gamers. Holy smokes! These video game people and these doctors, they're like this. They're talking over, talking around. I'm like, holy smokes, that was a nightmare. And so we get a procedure, we get it all done, it'd be all laid out nicely, and everybody'd sign off on it. So we give it to the programmers. And we would put more than one programmer on it, because I never wanted anybody to know what we were doing. So we had some 60 programmers eventually. And we broke everything down to the smallest possible component. So no programmer knew exactly what the whole thing was, because we wanted to protect it. And so we monitored this, so we knew within days, you had to tell us, how many hours is this going to take you this month? It's going to take me 60 man-hours. Okay, babe. We tracked and monitored that. We got done. If it took you 55 or 85, we wanted to know why. We worked through this part. But then we come back with a procedure, and we'd sit in front of the doctor, and they would try it. Oh my God, this can't work. This doesn't work. I mean, it took forever to find it. Because what they were hearing, what the doctors thought they were saying, and what the programmers understood they were saying, and how they converted it into technology wasn't the same as they thought they were coming at. And it was a puzzle, believe me. But we finally figured it out. And that's the genesis. That's how this came about. And then after you get all that done, I wanted, the market would be much easier in the consumer market, I know. But I wanted to go to education. Dumb me, huh? Stupid me. Stupid me. And, well, you're not going to get into education unless you've got peer-reviewed research. It's got to be done. These clinicians, what they were doing, they didn't do all that because they didn't really care. You got a mom, and that mom likes it, and it worked for them, and their grades are going up, that's all they needed. The next mom, she's your friend, she's going to work for my kid, you're in. Educators don't work that way. So now we got to get peer-reviewed research. Well, that takes time. That took a couple of years. It took a couple of years to get peer-reviewed research. Now we have a number of peer-reviewed research, but it took a lot of time. So we finally were able to start selling something. People were coming to it. Then we're testing it, beta testing it out there in 08 and 09, and we started really selling 10. And so that's kind of like the background of how the product came together. And this is where we are today. So let's talk a little bit about what this means. This is an interesting report. I don't know, are you guys familiar with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development? They do that report about every 15 years. And it really is a highbrow, intellectual, research-based position on a whole bunch of stuff. Well, we're going to talk about education. As you know, under President Clinton, they came up with the metrics to how to measure performance for reading and math and how we stack up around the world. And as you know, we don't stack up so well. But there's a lot I can say about that, but I'm not going to do a deep dive on that today. But let me just tell you this. What they said in this report, we'll get this session on Congress. If we can raise every child in America to the mean level on the PISA score, the mean level, not the top, the mean, we will uncover $72 trillion worth of GDP. Now, some of you may know what that means, some of you don't, but the whole world GDP is only 65 trillion. America's about 16 trillion. 72 trillion just in this country. We don't have any more economic problems. All this hucka-pucka on the hill doesn't mean anything if we get this right. And you guys are on the front lines. If we get this right, you hold the key. People like you in this room can either save this country or let it go. It's up to you. It's an awesome burden. It's been thrown on you all the time. So I don't know why it's always, everything's thrown at your footstep. But now you've got a real chance to save us all and to save future generations of children. I'm a baby boomer, 78 million, right? You only got 35 coming behind us. We're going to need every soldier up and marching. Every soldier's going to have to be productive. And you're our front lines. $72 trillion worth of GDP. And you know what the number one obstacle that they call a report as to why we can't get there or what we have to solve? The lack of cognitive development. They lay it right at the door. Not at your math program, not your reading program, not your science program, cognitive development. The ability to think and to reason and to problem solve is the challenge we're not delivering to our workforce. The number one thing, I talked to the conference, Corporate Workforce Development Board, they bring me in usually once a year. And their number one challenge is they cannot get people out of our schools that have the ability to think and to reason and to problem solve. There's no thinkers. They run into a stumbling block. I'm stuck. What can I do now? I'm stuck. That never happens in my, I don't know how you guys operate, but let me tell you how I operate. Nobody comes in my office saying we're stuck. When they come into my office, whatever the challenge might be, they have to come in with 3 approaches. This is our challenge. These are the 3 ways that I would approach it to solve it. This is A. Here's the up and down of A. Here's B. Up and down. It's always good and bad in every decision. Here's 3. And this is the one I recommend. C. Why? They tell me. Why do I want it that way? Because now I got a teaching moment. Now I know exactly how they think, the stumbling blocks that are coming through, and now I can teach. I know where to take them to get them where they need to go. So thinkers and problem solvers. And that report, I just can't tell you how important it is. There's another report that came out, before I get to that I want you to be aware of. You're familiar with, is it NCAT, pardon me? No, NCAT, the accrediting body for the I think it's NCAT or NCAT. It's N-C-A-T-E. It's the accrediting body. None of you would be here with a teaching degree without them because they accredit the universities with their ability to give a teaching degree. If they're not been accredited by them, they can't issue a teaching degree. So that's who they are. And they just came out, I think, last summer, or maybe summer before last, with a book called The Road Less Traveled. By the way, these two reports I can get with you, and you can have them if you'd like. But The Road Less Traveled, and what they say in there very clearly, right off the bat, if educators do not begin to incorporate into the developmental sciences in their classroom, we will never, quote, never close the achievement gap. Now, developmental sciences are more than just cognitive. There's lots of different things. There's emotional EQ, we can talk about a lot of the different sciences, but certainly cognitive is one of the key ones. And then they go on in that report and they talk about the fact of why educators have been reluctant to adopt this. And then they go on and they make their policy recommendations as what they think needs to be done going forward. So when I'm talking to you about this stuff, number one, I didn't create this product. And number two, it's not me that's telling you this is what we need. These are independent experts looking at our greatest challenges facing our society today. And they're giving us insights to the best cards to play to win. And if we're not in it to win, why are we in it? We don't get paid a lot of money. I don't know about you, I don't make a lot of money. You don't make a lot of money. We got to win. That's our self-satisfaction. Seeing those winner students being able to step out into the workforce and being able to accomplish something and be productive. And it looks like there's a couple of baby boomers in here. You particularly need their help quick. All right, so those are the two big things. Now, let's talk about the fourth. Well, I think this is a great time for us to take this journey together. I think there's a confluency of four things that are coming together right now that I think are critically important for us to take note of and think about. Number one, there's no more money. Party's over. Every state and federal government has sat down and listened to educators for the last 50 years. Every time we got a problem, we say, just give us more money, we'll solve the problem. That's all you got. Write us a check, it solves the problem. Write a check, it solves the problem. Well, that hasn't worked. Today, nationally, less than a third of our kids perform at grade level. It's not working. In the state of Illinois, we just had our new data. You don't listen to the schools, at least the ones I know. CPS, they manipulate. I feel some of our educators in the administration, don't mean to offend you folks, but they're better at manipulating numbers than Wall Street ever thought about being. You know, you got to keep your funds, you got to do your things. It's tough. You're in a very tough position. So no more money. So if there's no more money, then we have to find a better way to do it. And what we're going to talk about with no more money is it's about cut and eliminate, right? Or tax and spend. Is that what the two parties always argue? One is saying cut and eliminate, tax and spend. I presuppose there's another lens, there's another argument. Perhaps we can look at it a different way. Perhaps we can look at it a different way. And one of the ways I would suggest is no more money. The first school district to mandate BrainWare Safari, district-wide 3rd grade through 12th grade, they cut their special education budget by 50%. After it took 3 years, you got IEPs, you got a lot of challenges. They cut their special ed budget by 50%. They cut their student population classified as spend by 62%. Pre-BrainWare is 18% of total student population. Post-BrainWare, 5%. That's a 62% reduction. They had an enormous amount of newfound money in their budget to spend on what are other great education, cognitive development. Foreign language, that's a great cognitive development tool. They're cutting it out in many schools. Physical education, 75% of all your blood works through your brain. It's a great cognitive development. And what the Latin music, learning how to read and write music. Music's a great cognitive development. Helps you in all your other. Those are the things they're cutting out. Accountability. They went, talk about accountability, how about this for accountability? They went from a non-recognized school district academically in the state of Michigan to the number 7 highest performing academic district in the state. That's real accountability. Focus on teacher proficiency. You know, right now, all of education reform that we've seen has been focused on exterior components. It's talking about the buildings. We need bigger buildings. We need more technology. We need different curriculum. And now the attack is on teachers. They've attacked everything about, now they're attacking you guys. My personal experience, I see some pretty amazing teachers. I mean, I don't know what everybody else is looking at, but I do. Is there not a need to improve in every profession? You know, I try to turn out my lowest performing people at the bottom 10%. That's life. There's always going to be, you can't have a top without a bottom. You can't have right without left. So, you know, you can't have good without bad. I mean, if you didn't have bad, how would you know what good was? Right? So what we try to do is understand this focus on teacher proficiency. And what do you think you would do? What do you think you would do with teacher proficiency and elevating it, if you gave that teacher a classroom full of students better prepared to learn. Better prepared to learn. To me, and I'm sure many of you are the same way, life's all about preparation. You know, they look at your time in class, and I love this when people are trying to evaluate education. They don't know what kind of preparation you go through outside of that. Before you ever walk into that classroom, what have you done? It's all about preparation. Think of anything you've done well. If you played sports, we used to practice 5 days a week for a Friday night game. Everything's, I mean, you're going to give a talk for 20 minutes, you'll spend 15 hours trying to focus it, shape it, make sure you're reaching the audience. By the way, I hope I reach you today. But the reality is it's about preparation. And unfortunately, not all of our students today come from highly proactive, stimulating, involved, engaged community and home life, ready for great teaching and great curriculum. They're just ready to go. It's not that way, folks. We're trying to educate populations today that you never would have tried to educate before. It isn't you in that classroom. It's a different world. And we got to find a way to reach them. And I got to tell you, the guy said to me, what's the shortest distance to success? 8 inches, right between those 2 ears. That's the shortest distance of success. You get that working right, everything else falls in. So if you want to talk about teacher proficiency and let's just give them, because you know, I mean, I know you've seen this. If you're the principal, and you know you got the knuckleheads. You walk in September, and everybody in the school knows you got the knuckleheads, and you got the rock stars. Everybody knows by the end of the year who's going to look good. You're going to look like a genius, and you're going to look like an idiot. You can't go into the principal and say, can we switch classes? That ain't going to happen. You're stuck with what you get. And it's all about you. If your kids don't perform, then you're either not a good teacher, or you're not working hard enough, or you're not smart enough. Then attack. Let's focus on most of the student. Common Core. This is the other fourth thing I think is critical, because with Common Core coming down the pipe, it's going to broaden the range of accountability, take it to a whole new level. And what we can help you do, we want to help you accelerate the adoption of Common Core. And so what BrainWare does, if the student has the BrainWare, it's going to empower that student to reach the teacher. And if you understand brain compatible lesson plan and how to optimize that teacher's capacity based on the best practices to reach the student, then you come together what we call the empowered learning zone. And Dr. Lou may be talking about that. So we already covered this. Those slides are out of sync with us. Okay, so where am I at right here? You've heard of 21st century skills. I don't know where you guys come from, but on our side of the track and the people that we said, hey, that's just a pig with a different color lipstick. You know, I mean, what are you telling me here? The reality is the missing point here, and it's a missing point in every formula that I see in education reform. It ain't about the building, folks. It ain't about the computer. It ain't. It's about the number one thing in every formula that needs to be assigned a value, and that is the student. And the student, I guess is how it usually pops in right there. It's about the student. That's the unknown value that needs to be assigned. And those of you that are math people and you do algebra, you got to have a formulation, and the student has to be there. And none of this is doing, they talk about thinking skills and so forth, but they don't give you any tools to build things. You need tools to build thinking skills, attention skills. No matter how great you can't build attention skills. It's impossible for you as a teacher to build attention skills. I don't know if any of you ever taught 3rd grade, but I've talked to a lot of 3rd grade teachers, and they said, if I had a nickel for every time I said pay attention, I could be retired. So the student, and that's what we're about focusing on the student and providing that student. We say we can deliver a student to the classroom that is better prepared to learn for less money. It's a capacity issue. They do, and I know this is not politically correct, but these children that they're having they do not have the capacity. And I don't care how brilliant you are, you can't take 10 ounces and put it in a 4-ounce glass. You can't do it. I defy you. You can't put a 10-ounce bucket of water into a 6-ounce glass. You can't do it. You have to build their capacity. Then that empowers the teacher to do what they do best, and that's teach. And so that's my little talk about what I want to talk about today. At this point, is there any questions or comments? I apologize for talking so much.
I mean, you can hear his passion, can't you? And his belief in education, and we're very grateful that there are people like this that really have our students as the number one reason that they are involved in such a program such as this. I'm really fascinated by it. And I really want to go into how we became interested in it, because I think you need to hear that personal side. First of all, yeah, I love this slide. And we know that no two brains are alike, obviously. We're interested in really learning how the brain learns best. And so now you're hearing more and more about the brain-compatible classroom in the study of neuroscience in all of our schools. And I really commend you for really pushing forward with them, speaking with Pat Wolf and the whole group on Capitol Hill. I think it's going to be very, very exciting. It's an important time within our history. But how do we do this? How do we develop this cognitive capacity? First of all, we have to have the children must understand how their brains work. And here at Pope John Paul, I'm going to show you how we do it in our school and how we teach it. And then implementing a comprehensive computer-based cognitive skills development program. When I found out about BrainWare Safari, it just matched so nicely. So we, as I said, we did our own little research in that. We do want you to be kind of careful. Out on the market right now, you're going to see programs popping up all over the place. You see Advertise Lumosity is one of the programs in that. I just happen to, the one thing I've asked that you do, no matter what programs you look at, always look at their research. Ask for their white papers, who did the research, what were their findings, and so forth. Because it's now becoming the new buzzword, and people are putting, it's kind of like the Mozart effect. When that all came out, that was horrible because the real studies had nothing to do with the way society interpreted it, and a lot of false information was given out. Just sitting down and playing a computer game and somebody saying, well, it's working on my brain this way. Lumosity, I met them at the Learning the Brain conference, which, by the way, I'm just going to put that little plug in. That's probably one of the best brain conferences in our nation. It was just recently in Boston. And I've always wanted to go, I've always wanted to speak, but you have to be pretty top-notch. Well, it was Roger contacted me and said, Lou, would you be willing to speak at the Learning and Brain Conference because of your scores? Because you did so well. And I'm like, oh, I'd love to go because I wanted to go to the conference. And that was very nice. So that gave us an opportunity. It was great PR for our school to talk on behalf of how we're using the program. But I just, and I did talk to the Lumosity, for example, and I said, for example, what testing do you do, pre and post test? Because, like he said, the Woodcock-Johnson, or we're using our COGAT scores for Iowa testing, which is great, and their response was, well, we've made up our own tests. And I'm like, oh, that's great. You make up your own test to fit your results. It's got to be pretty good. So I'd just be very leery of that. No matter what program you look at, please really take a good hard look at that. I can't stress this enough. Our students, but also our teachers, really need to understand how the brain works. It's amazing to me that it's taken so long to get back into the college level of really studying neuroscience. That should be one of the first classes that you study, is all about the brain, because you're learning how to learn. And likewise we do with our little guys. We start teaching from the little ones, from our 3-year-olds all the way up. And I'm going to show you some of this. Why do students need to learn about their brains? What should they learn about their brain and how to teach them? At the Learning and Brain Conference, this was almost the basic theme this year. It was like, you need to teach about it. But the neuroscientists that were presenting said, I don't know what to teach them or how to do it, but they should learn about their brain. And I'm thinking, it's so easy for us as educators. And I had mentioned that, Dr. Pat Wolf will be speaking at Congress, which we're so excited. And so she'll be speaking at the end of January. This, for example, this is our little guys, and we start teaching about the brain, where the brain is located, what it does. These are our kindergartners. Obviously, they're wearing their brains right there. But you see how the children, they put their faces, so it's the same color eyes and so forth. But then when you turn it around, you can see the neurons, and you can see the dendrites and so forth. And we start, as I said, at this very early age. We have what we call Night at the Museum, where we turn our school into a museum. It's like an open house, and every room has got a different theme. The 4-year-old class picked the brain as their theme. We walk into a child's brain. This is their classroom. You walk in, and everything is interactive. You see this hanging from the ceiling? Those are neurons. And the kids can tell you, those are neurons hanging on the ceiling. Those are my dendrites, because that's in the side of my head, and that's what makes me learn. Okay? You can go down and talk to those kids. So here you got the cell body, they're related, the axons, cell body, making out of clay. All of this was interactive for the kids. They knew the different regions of the brain. They know how to learn right at that very, very early age. In fact, we were sitting and the 7th graders happened to be singing a song about the hippocampus. And I was sitting next to a 4-year-old kid that said, no, it's not hippocampus, it's hippocampus. I'm like, and I went, and what is the hippocampus? And they go, well, that's where your memory is kept. That's the center where all your memory is. And I'm like, holy mackerel, okay? So starting that young is very, very important. And then when we talk about music and so forth, what part of your brain is lighting up? When we get into 3rd and 5th grade, we go into, again, the different regions of the brain, but then how to study. When you get into the middle school, we talk about how does information even get into your head. They have to understand that basic information. Then they understand what kind of learner they are. This is one of the best slides. We of course, have it for all of our teachers. This is from the Dana Foundation, and they understand that there are different regions of the brain that light up or become active, when they're stimulated. So I say to the boys and girls, I say, all right, boys and girls, these are 4 different pictures of brains. You're looking inside my head. I'm standing right here. You're looking right into my head. And this region of the brain, because it's not important that they memorize that it's, the parietal part of the brain. That's not, but they need to know that there's a section when you are listening that right now is firing. So inside your head, those neurons are firing right in here. When you're looking up here, this part back in here is called the occipital lobe, because information comes into your eyes and back here. So as you're looking at the board, this part is lighting up. So does this make sense? As I'm talking, both this, because you're looking at the board, and you're hearing me, both of these are talking, are lighting up and flashing. Now if I stop talking and you just look, you understand that this is the only part of the brain that is actually activated. So now let's talk about when you're speaking. When the teacher asks you to read something, there's another region of the brain that is lighting up, but then also when you have to come up with that answer, and you have to stop and think, well, those frontal lobes, now you've got another section of the brain. So doesn't it make sense, boys and girls, that the more places you can get that brain to light up, the better chance you have of remembering something? Does that make sense? And they go, yes. I said, that's why, especially in middle school, that's why this here lecture is the worst form of instruction, because you're using less part of your brain than you are in other teaching styles. We're asking our children, as part of our school improvement plan, the students are actually keeping track of the different teaching styles, what their favorite is from our teachers. We've got a number of teaching styles, and every week they have to rate which teaching style they like the best, which is their favorite. So what we're doing is matching their teaching style with their personal learning style. When they leave the school, they have to tell me exactly what kind of learner they are. And then by doing that, then they become better students, and they can adjust their learning and their studying. I say to them in class, I said, all right, boys and girls, so who's the smartest person in the classroom? Well, it's the teacher, right? And why is it the teacher? Because the teacher is constantly using all parts of their brain at all times. As the teacher is up there and I'm talking, I'm looking, I'm listening, I'm hearing. So the teacher's the smartest one. So that leads me right into the segue of, all right, so if you really want to learn something, what do you have to do? Teach it. You have to teach it. So at our school, we stress reciprocal teaching over and over again. If you want to learn something, once you get the information, you have to turn around and you have to teach it. You will see our students sitting with partners, and they understand why they're doing this. It's not the person really that is trying to solve it here. It is the person that is teaching that is learning. Okay? And they understand that. And I give this really cute example. I said, to do that, and this is a great hint for parents. I said, parents, when you go to study with your kids, don't just ask them straight answers. What was the year of the Civil War? Who was the president? One word answer, forget it. You're supposed to play the dumb student. I don't know anything about the Civil War. My goodness, what was going on during the Civil War? Who was in charge? How did this happen? How did the people feel? Parents, you are the student. Let them teach you. It activates more parts of their brain. It's a simple technique to do, and it will help them learn things. So even at a very early age, we have them teaching one another at all times. Even the little guys here, you know, explain to me, count to me. They never do it alone. They always have to do it with a partner because it's the one teaching. I say to them, so parents, when you're cooking dinner or driving through the drive-thru, make sure that you're acting as the student. Let them teach you. Now, if you're home alone, so I say to the kids, how are you going to study? You're going to study because I have to teach it. And he goes, okay, so who's at home? And he goes, there's just my baby brother, and he's only 4. He's not gonna understand. He goes, who cares? It's not him that's learning, it's you, okay? The teacher's the one that's learning. I said, who is the best student in your house? The family dog. The family dog. I said, sit with your family dog and teach him. And I had a fourth grader run up to me. Dr. Whitaker, oh, I'm getting an A in spelling. I said, you are? She goes, I can spell so good. And I said, really, what are you doing? She goes, I'm going home every day and I'm teaching my dog. I go up to my dog and I sit down there and I said, okay, clap. C-L-O-C-K. Now the dog will sit there and pant and so forth. And he goes, I can't believe it, Dr. Whitaker. I'm getting A's in spelling, and I think my dog can spell. I said, well, now don't do it to cats, you know, because cats are too finicky. They don't know anything. But I really try to express to them how important it is, how that teaching technique, and even when I get to the older kids, obviously, as they get older, you get more and more detailed, and so forth. I do tell the story about my son, Andy. We have 2 sons, Andy and Jason. And they're grown now, they're 30 and 31, no grandkids yet, not that it bothers me, but anyways, when Andy was in school, and I love telling the story, because I think it really drives home the point. When Andy was in school, he went to junior college for a year, and then after a year, he wanted to go into airframe mechanics. And after a year, he decided, well, I don't know if college is for me. I like working over at Gordy's Marina. I think I just want to work. And I'm like, honey, you know, maybe college isn't for you. Whatever, it's your life. Whatever, as long as you can support yourself, we're behind you. So Andy dropped out of school, and he was working. But 4 years go by. Now, after 4 years, all his buddies are now graduating. Okay, they're all sitting around talking, and they're kind of talking salaries and what they're doing. And here Andy's still there, and his younger brother Jason starts applying to go to school. And one day Andy comes to me and goes, you know, Mom, you were right. I probably should have stayed in school. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? You can go back to school now. And he said, what? I can't go back to school. I'm too old. I'm 23. I'm like, and he goes, I can't. I've got a car payment. I'm like, you're not married. You're not. I said, you know what? That's why God made student loans. Let me tell you all about that. So he was very worried about his age. And I bring this out because it's an important part of the story. So at this time, we were moving from Wisconsin down to Florida. And there was a guy, because he got into Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And as I said, he was always struggling. Now, it's true, a few years are now under his belt. So the first day, I said, how is school going? You know, and I said, how are things going? He goes, oh, Mom, it's great. There's an old guy in the class, he's 35. I said, okay, great. But all of a sudden, he starts bringing home A's and B's on everything from Embry-Riddle. And I'm like, Andy, what is going on? He said, Mom, this is incredible. See, we meet afterwards, okay? And we have these little study groups. And I have a year of junior college. And I am older than most of them, okay? So as we talk, they're asking me questions because they figure I know more because I'm older. And so I have to kind of explain things. And so he says, this is incredible. As I go to explain them, all of a sudden, it's amazing to me when I go to take my test, I can remember what I said. You got to learn about this, Mom. It's so cool. Okay, but what do I know? I'm only his mother. But I tell him the story, and then I said, okay, now boys and girls, let me finish up, bring you fast forward. He did graduate. He now works for Disney. He's a mechanical engineer. He works over at Epcot. When you get hired as an engineer at Disney, your salary is based on a test, okay? A written test. And he worked for them for like 6 months. He goes, I got to go take this test. And you can take this test your entire career. There are some people working at Disney taking the test every 6 months for 15 years, and they're at this salary rate, okay? And he goes, Mom, I got to pass this test. And I'm like, okay, Andy, if you want to pass the test, what are you going to have to do? And he goes, I have to teach it. And I said, yeah, you do. And he says, okay, what do I do? So I helped him make some flashcards. I know nothing about engineering. Do you know there's a box with 3 wiggly lines that means something? I don't know. But I helped him make these little tiny flashcards. So while he's working, he would have them in his pocket, and then he'd take them out, and he's talking to himself out loud. All right, now if you want to do this, this is mechanical, and so one of his buddies goes, what are you doing? What is that? And he goes, I'm teaching myself. And he goes, what? And he said, what are those? He goes, those are my flashcards my mom made me. Your mom made me flashcards? He said, yeah. And he goes, oh, how nice. And the guys were all in. They go to take the test. 35 names around the board. 4 pass. Andy passed.
Great.
And he's standing there, and he's looking at that, and everyone is standing around the car, and he goes, oh my God, I might have made it. And he turns around, here's the guy that was teasing him who did not pass. And Andy couldn't help but go, I have to go call my mommy. All right. I tell that story because I tell it to our students. If you really want to learn something, you have to teach it and understand how the brain works, how your brain works. So at our school, we do this quite a bit, so they understand. Well, then all of a sudden, like I said, I'm going to Pat Wolf's thing in January. I'm sitting there one day, and I hardly knew Betsy. Betsy Hill is their president of your company. Is that her title, president? And Pat starts by talking, and she says, well, I want to share something with you. There's a product on the market called BrainWare Safari, and I've decided to endorse it. And we all went, what? Pat Wolf has never endorsed anything. She said, fast forward, it's a very good program. That's the only other program that you even consider, but it's nothing compared to this. And he said, you really need to take a look at this program. Truthfully, in all honesty, I didn't even have to read the research. Once Pat endorsed it, I figured it's got to be pretty good. But Betsy goes and she starts the demonstration showing the program, and the first thing she puts up, and you'll see it in a little bit, there's some arrows, and their arrows are like this. And they said, all right, if this arrow were to move 45 degrees, which way would it be pointing? And you had A, B, C, D in a choice. And so at the table, these arrows came up, and I went C, and the next one B, the next one A, and they all went, ooh, Lou, you're really good. And I'm like, this is easy, you know. Then they put up the next game. And everyone at our table, and there's a bunch of boxes and letters and holes in the boxes, and they're yelling, B, 9, Z. And I'm like, what's the question? What are you doing? This program, I'm very strong on spatial reasoning, and that I could answer it just like this. Those other ones where I know I'm weak, I couldn't do it. I said, this is fascinating. So I took the program home. I can remember because I put it in the program, and I began to play it. I thought, I'm not going to take anything to school unless I try it myself, and that's why I would highly recommend, in all honesty, that you take your own product and play with it so you understand it. And I began to play all the games. There's so many games on there, and there's, how many, 40? I know there's 40.
17 games, 168 levels.
How many?
17 games,
17 games.
levels.
All right, so there's 17. Thanks, Abby. There's 17 games. So I started right with number 1. Some of them were very easy, and I'm going, and they go, oh, this is good. Well, I didn't have the earphones on because you're supposed to wear earphones. So my sons are sitting in the room, and I tried this stupid game called Piranha Pass. And just, you know, the little, you got to get the swimmer to go along and get him into the boat safely, and there's piranha all over. And you have to figure out a formula. You do 50 strokes here, and 25 strokes here, and 40 strokes, you know. And my guy would constantly blah, 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 and be eaten by piranhas. And then, it's okay, Lou, you can do it. And my boy said, what are you doing, Mom? I said, I can't play this stupid game. How in heaven's name is a 3rd grader going to do this? You just can't do it. I was really frustrated. But as I played each one, I thought, I know I have short-term memory. I know I have a problem here. And it pegged me exactly. When you take a look at this, and you see they have the games listed across here, and then it says, you know, what it's working on. I don't know how those neuroscientists and your gamers figure all this out. But personally, it had me pegged 100%. Yep, those are my strengths. Yep, those are my weaknesses. So, what this is telling me, all right, I can do this game. Then I gotta work hard on those weaknesses. It's the weaknesses that really, this program is all about. again, Roger kind of went over this, explaining what the different definitions are. I give this to our parents so they can see what each of the games, what it's for. The kids don't have to know any of this. They're just in there playing a video game, and that's all you want them to know, okay? Yes, please, absolutely.
Back to that slide, I think that's what's important, whenever you're looking at what makes this different than anything you've seen before. As I said, it's the integrated architecture of how it's built in a highly comprehensive, integrated way. So when you look across here on your sheet, you'll see that there's, in each field of activity, there's multiple things being worked on simultaneously. So we're not working in a silo. Most programs, and even the university, say, well, you can only work on attention skills. And when you're done working on attention, we can kind of shut that down and go work on processing, visual, auditory. And that's, we go directly opposite to everything you're going to see. It's the comprehensive, integrated approach, and that's what that clearly demonstrates.
The software develops 41 cognitive skills, and those are all listed. It's grounded in neuroscience. It's an 8 to 12 week program, 3-5 times a week, and we'll explain how we've set this up. We started with an afternoon program after school, but now we have it during the regular school day, and I'll show you how we did it, and the result is tremendous, the difference. In effect, it's in a video game format, so the kids get to come in and play a video game. Now, they love it at first on the easy games, but when they hit those hard games, you're going to have a hard time. Okay? What I do love, I love the analogy that they talk about. It's kind of like this spider web. In other words, spider web is all set. If the wind blows and breaks apart some of those strands, all right, and it's broken, well, what BrainWare Safari does is like your brain. It works on getting those weaknesses back and making those connections and making the whole cognitive thinking and the skills much better. I love this. I was just telling Roger, I said, this is really a great graphic and how this was designed. You start and take a look at, here's your input, and obviously your output's there at the other end. You're really looking at the sensory input, the reception. They want to attend, organize, and select items, and compare and sort. And then it jumps into, this is your memory bank, for example. Then the perception, the process, identify, interpret, okay, retrieve and integrate this information. Now, higher order thinking, to comprehend, to reason, to plan, okay, and modify and manipulate what you have already learned. When you look at this, it deals with sustained attention, divided attention, flexible attention, visual and auditory. This works. The kids have to wear earphones, okay? You are coordinating the hearing, the hand movements. There's times you have to click with your finger. There might be background noise and so forth, so the child is concentrating really hard on trying to solve the problem. The visual span, discretionary distance timing, visual auditory sequencing, and this is where it's working on with memory. The sensory memory, short-term memory, working memory, long-term memory. You have hit absolutely every possible gamut that I can think of. And obviously, logic, reasoning, planning, and strategy. And then the whole new buzzword, and I said, you know what you got to add to this is this baby. This is our Common Core standards that we're talking about. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get them to this point. You're saying the same thing here, guys. All your Common Core standards are saying, you got to get that higher order thinking. How do we get there? So we're working on lesson plans, I know we all are, on changing our lesson plans, trying to do this, but our goal is all the same, to really get to that level. So if you are really looking at, if you need, for example, if you're writing a grant, if you're looking for additional funding, if you need any kind of credibility and so forth, and say, okay, the goal is, how are you going to reach your Common Core standards? By using a program such as this, you can say, all right, this will support what we're doing in the classroom.
We were just awarded a Race to the Top grant.
Oh, yeah, would you tell them about this?
Yeah, we were just, and it came down to these issues, and the federal government is working more towards this goal of looking at these things more carefully. One of the things we're going to be doing on the Hill is working to get set aside funding, and that money can only be spent, and this is what our hope is. We haven't got this done yet, it takes a little time. But to be able to have set aside funding for cognitive development and neuroscience research in the classroom. Because if you leave that to the people that are making decisions today on all of these, like Race to the Top and I3, they're no different than us. They are a product of their environment and of their experiences.
So they think it's just another reading program or just another math program structured a different way. And so they're not going to say, well, you need to be neuroscience, because they don't know anything about neuroscience. They're not trained. They don't know, they can't connect the dots to what's going on here and how does that translate to performance on a test. So I said, we're never going to get a fair shot. You've got to do this differently. So the Secretary Posey, I don't know, Posey, the Undersecretary of Special Education, Alexa, as he said, Roger, we got this new thing with the you've heard this term, universal design for learning. We fit perfectly under that concept. You're never going to get rebuffed by anybody if you classify your neuroscience or your cognitive under that universal design for learning. And just so you know, on your sheet, you'll see their Title I, at risk. I can go right down the line of where people are using funds for this type of initiative.
Now, on the race to the top,
Yeah.
what district was that?
Okay, this is,
Yeah.
Middletown, I think it's, I can follow up with it, but I believe it's Middletown, New York. It's a high poverty district. You got about 7,500 kids. They got $20 million. And we're an integral part of that. Dr. Ken, Eastwood, I joke about him being Clint Eastwood. He talks about me being Tony Stark, so we have a lot of fun. But at any rate, yeah, they're going to be working with BrainWare. It's a 4-year grant, so once again, you got limitations. I mean, he would like to take it for all of his students, but he can't. He doesn't have the computers at the time, and there's lots of other things on the agenda. You got a big job, big responsibility. So they're starting out slow. I think they're going to do probably 800 or 1,000 students coming up, and then they're going to move through it in different populations and different cycles. But it takes time. But yeah, we're going to be a big part of it. We're going to be doing BrainWare Safari, but we're also going to be doing professional development on teaching the teachers how to build brain-compatible lesson plans to best practice. So that's going to be another dynamic that's going to take place. So we're very excited.
Right.
It's the first one that put us in. We're very excited about it.
The pilot program that we started, so that's when I pulled Abby, and I said, Abby, I think this program is interesting, but before we bring it to our parents and really implement it in our school, what if we set up a small pilot program? And so we chose 15 students, and they were second graders through 6th grade. Second grade because we are concerned about the reading level. You can't really take it down to kindergarten and lower because you have to have a certain reading level. So second grade would be okay through 6th. I chose that, and that was a mistake, and I'll tell you why. Because it was the reason I wanted it 6, because I want to watch this program for a couple of years, okay? So if they're in 7th or 8th grade, they're leaving me. All right, so I wanted to see if there's any results in 6th grade, and I can watch them for 2 more years. But what this did was it sent a message, this program is for little kids only. And so when we tried to get the middle school kids to join the program, oh no, that's for babies. And I'm like, oh, we made a mistake. But we corrected it, and I'll show you how I did that. So anyways, and we chose a variety of ability. We took a couple of Title I students, and this was the staff kind of who would be good in this kind of program, who we think would benefit from it, as well as up to gifted, and tried that. I have a mandatory parent meeting, and that's not anything to do with the company. That is my requirement. I want the parents to understand how the brain works and how this program works, so they are supported. Now, what was really they absolutely have to come to the meeting. And this first pilot group, I said, congratulations, your children have been chosen. However, I don't have any money, and I need $100 from each of you. Okay? And they went, what? I mean, I didn't say it quite that way, but honestly, I did. And we had a couple of 2 parents could afford it, so of course we had the scholarship, so we didn't have to worry about that. But they had to understand how the program worked. They knew it was a pilot program. And I said, it's going to be for like 8 weeks. It's going to be after school from 3:30 to 4:15, I think we did the first time. But I asked the parents, please just notice anything at home. I'm going to ask the kids' opinion, if they notice any difference in the classroom, how they're learning.
We had to do a journal.
Pardon?
We had to do a journal.
Yes.
And turn it every couple of weeks.
Yeah, to try and keep that going. Well, that's when we started with the program. And you can see them sitting in here. And this is what happened. As you can see them, we basically give them basic instructions. This is how you log in. This is the beginning one. These are the games. You put your headphones on, and they literally work independently. Now, your coach plays an important role, and I'll go into that in a few minutes, but your coach has got to go around and check on how they're doing and support them and constantly encourage them to keep on moving along. But within the first 4 weeks, we've only been in the program 4 weeks, and we asked, as I said, we asked the parents to pay the $100. One of the parents walked up to me with a $200 check, and he goes, I'll pay for the next 2 kids. And I went, what? He goes, I've seen results already. I can't believe the difference in my daughter's reading and her attitude, and she's just reading more and more. And the only thing that we're doing in the last 4 weeks is from BrainWare. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you very much. But he noticed that right away. And I'm going to ask Abby also to fill in some stuff. The very bright student, we had one student, gifted student, and I'm like, she got A's before, she's getting A's at the end, okay? We didn't notice anything. And there's going to be students you don't see any difference, okay? And so we went and we asked Mom and Dad, have you noticed any difference, with Susie? She said the stress level, how she can handle stress. It said she was her own worst enemy. She would come home, I got a 92 on this. I can't believe how terrible I did. I've got to do better. I know, I've got, and he says, and we don't put that pressure on. Honey, 90's fine, and 80's fine. You're doing fine, don't. But she would, get upset over it. She'd be nervous over stuff. When you sit down with BrainWare Safari and you're playing these games, that kid's gonna hit that wall. There's gonna be games they cannot pass. And that's very frustrating. But you tell them, okay, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, and they finally break through that wall. She goes, what a difference with stress. She can come home with a 92. She goes, but I know I can do a lot better, and I'm not worried about it. I know I've got the ability. So this kind of thing. I have a comment from, actually it was Notre Dame School when we had it moving in Notre Dame School. The teacher said, we were in social studies class away from the computer. And they were working on a problem. They were building something, working on whatever. And they couldn't solve it. And one of the kids said, okay, let's slow down. We're getting too upset. Remember in BrainWare when you hit that wall and you can't get through? If you stop and think, go back and read the directions, we can do it. We can do it. We can break through this wall. And the teacher went, oh my God, and just stuff like that. I love the story of the public school child that snuck in our building. Don't listen to this one. Okay,
This is my neighbor. Yeah, she was spending about $2,000 a month on therapies and driving to Tampa from here. And we walk every night together in the whole neighborhood. We're a small neighborhood. And I said to her, I was like, our school is implementing this program. We were still kind of in the pilot program at the time. I said, let me talk to my principal. I don't know if she would care. So 3 of our Citrus County kids started coming over here every day. They were all 3 my neighbors. I said, it's, for $100, I think it'll be worth it. She goes, hey, I'll try anything at this point from what she was already spending. And her daughter was in 4th grade at the time. She was in 4th grade. I said, that's a good age. Let's try it. And she came to me like a couple weeks later and she was seriously, didn't feel like telling me about that before we signed up for Tampa. I was like, I didn't know. Because she said she saw more in the 10 weeks she was coming here doing BrainWare Safari than she did driving to Tampa 2 days a week. She said I was spending so much money down there, and here it was 2 miles from my house.
And I love the example that you talked about. She was, what my daughter has difficulty transposing or remembering information like on a math test, or math paper. It'd be 312, minus 5. She'd have to go 3, 1, 2, minus, 5, and then she had to figure it out. After about 4 weeks in the program, she's doing her homework with her mom, and she says, 692 minus 14. 692 minus 14. And she looked up at her mom and went, how did I do that? And they said, BrainWare Safari. The kid and the mother knew the answer was BrainWare Safari. She goes, I can't believe it. And see, that's the thing. And when you understand how the neurons work, because I'm like, how is this program working? And it makes so much sense to me. You are practicing a game, and the whole neural network thing is set up, all right? And you play this game, and those neurons are firing over and over and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, when you go to do that math program and try and remember those math numbers, guess what? It's that same neural pathway that you just constructed in the game that was transferred over. So that's how it's working. The kids don't realize it because you're playing all these other games, but the science behind it is really what is generating and how it's being so effective.
Now, really what it is, it's a heavy-duty industrial strength therapy. I mean, that's really what it is. Mm-hmm. But it's cloaked in a video game. So to them, it's just fun and interactive. And so it's a different. And I want to comment, you talk about the game, because our doctors would go nuts if we call it a game.
I know.
But,
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and I've been criticized so much by that. But the video games are typically designed by gameplay and storyline. That's how a video game is designed, okay? Our product is not designed around storyline or gameplay. It's designed around a very specific methodology to achieve intellectual sustainable growth. So the mission is different. The mission critical for us is different than a typical video game. It just looks like it and feels like it. And by the way, we got the Cody Award for the best video game in education worldwide. For those who don't know the Cody in the world of software, that's the Oscar.
Yeah. One thing that I want to mention, I expected there to be a problem with competition of one student sitting next to the other. What game are you on? Well, I'm on level 6, and you're only on level 4, okay? Don't have any of that. And you know what happened? I think it's because when we first started it, we started talking with the kids. I can remember going in, and here's little Maya sitting there, and she's got Passing, my favorite game. And I said, oh, Mariah, oh my goodness, you've got Passing. I said, how are you doing? She goes, okay. I said, I know, this is such a difficult one. I said, but you can get it. You just have to really concentrate and work on it really hard. And she goes, yeah, I know, I am. I said, well, how are you doing? She goes, I'm on level 6. I said, level 6, I swear to God, I have not passed level 1. And I shared that with the kids, and I said, you know what? It's not because I'm smarter or you're smart, that's how my brain is designed. And so if the kid sitting next to you is on a different level, but you're much better, your brain is stronger over here. And so they understand that. When they hit this wall, and every child will do that.
Every individual.
Yes, you do. And you get very frustrated because you're like, I can't get it, I can't get it. And so you explain, you hit that one, then you go to an easier game, then you come back, and so forth. But when a child breaks through that wall, it is so rewarding. I have it burned in my memory. And my dad is standing out here in the hallway, and he's leaning against the wall. This kid has been on the same game for 2 weeks. He can't pass it. And Dad's just sitting there waiting and waiting, and all of a sudden, there's a scream in the computer lab, okay? And he said, oh my gosh, don't tell me. And sure enough, the kid comes out, and he's beaming from ear to ear. And he said, how are you doing? He goes, I got it. I broke through. That's how you develop self-esteem and self-worth. You don't do it by you're a wonderful student, you're working. It's not compliments, that's not going to do it. You have to give a child a challenge. It's not too hard. If it's too hard, you're going to lose him. But it can't be too easy. It's got to be difficult enough to challenge him, and then once he breaks through that wall, I think that self-image and that's what this program does. And I was not expecting that. That was not my purpose on doing that. What I also love, and I'm really pleased to move me a little bit quicker. Oh, here's my games. See, I was really pretty good on right, left, and so forth. Here's the lab, for example, and the kids are working on it. And your coach is there, walking up and down and looking at each one. Let me tell you what we did with the middle school students. I had a parent come to me and said, my son really, I got to get him in this game, and he won't do it. He's not going to sign up for the program. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me see how I can do this. So, one child was struggling, the other two are very, very bright, but I called all 3 of them into my office and said, guys, I need to ask if you'd help me with something. And they said, yeah, what? I said, we just purchased this new program called BrainWare Safari, a bunch of computer games. Are you guys gamers by chance? And I knew he was a gamer. Okay. And he goes, yeah, I want to play video games. I said, really? I said, would you do me a favor? Would you guys mind playing these games? We've never seen the end. I don't know what 168 looks like. Can you possibly do it to see? Because I'm anxious to see how long it takes you to do it. And then if you could pass, even though I lectured and said, high school kids take it, adults take it, I knew you did. So they went, yeah, I guess. I said, no, I might have to take you out of class once in a while to, oh, well, that just sealed it. Okay, so now this one kid that was usually in trouble, right? Bless his heart. Still is. But he worked on this thing, and he was the first kid in our school to complete it.
Well, he actually quit halfway through. You gotta remember that first part. He actually quit halfway through. He wasn't showing up, so we called him, we're like, where are you? He goes, oh, I quit because I hate it. We said, you can't really quit. And he goes, no, I quit. So for about 2 weeks, he quit. He wouldn't show up, he wouldn't log in. So we convinced him to finally do it at home. He goes, all right, I'll do it at home. And then he walked in a couple weeks later, and he was like, I beat it. I beat it. And we're like, and you quit a couple weeks ago? Yeah. And he was the first kid in the school to ever finish it.
This is where the great teaching comes in. You need good teaching. When they're having those challenges, that's where your resources and your assets as a teacher and a leader and a manager can motivate them and keep them going. And the great thing about it is we attack skills from multiple different ways. So if this is a fork we're trying to get into, we'll go this way. If we're having trouble, we can go this way. There's a lot of ways to build visual processing, not just one way. There's a lot of ways to build auditory processing. So sometimes if we're having a challenge to go traveling one track, you just close out of that track, because you never should spend more than about 10 minutes on any one field of activity, whether you're doing really well or whether you're doing poorly. That's the only way you need to coach. Okay, stop, move to another field. And everybody can go any field they want. No 2 students have to be on the same field. But what you'll find is since we build skills so many different ways, you can tack onto one of your strengths
and build a weakness. So if you have trouble, you tackle it another way, and it's magic. You get through that way, then you go back to that thing was a challenge, and you can blow through it. And I'm going to help coach you through Piranha Path. You're going to be a different, you're going to have a different
I'm
conversation
older
about
than
that.
that. All right, so then once this happened, then we decided, the after-school program, yes, you can set it up that way if you wanted to. It can be like a gifted program, it can just be open to parents or to children. It works the best during the regular school day. What we did then, we met with BrainWare and we asked them, we want to put it it's in our third grade curriculum, so for 8 weeks, we're down to 8 weeks. We take 1 unit of technology, 1 unit of library time, there's a lot of reading, and 1 period of math from the homeroom teacher. So they sit in the computer lab with them. So it's scheduled for that time. What I love about this is I sense that I'm doing okay, but I wish I had some research behind it. So I contacted the company and I said, is there any way we could actually test the kids before and after? So we use the COGAT testing. We do that in our diocese. So we did before and after with the COGAT abilities test. I don't have to go into all these. Obviously, the COGAT really works on the verbal, which is remembering words, transition sequences, understand, infer, and make judgments. The quantitative, which is the relationship for math understanding and concepts. And the nonverbal reasoning, picture, and geometric shapes. And then you get a composite score. So we tested them on the COGAT before and after. The pre-test right in here is the darker color, and it was like at 62%. At the end of the program, it went up to 73%. Percentile, thank you, percentile. Now the quantitative, this was quite a jump, and this is what really pushed, got our attention. He goes, Lou, you guys jumped from 60 to 81%. This is the average, okay? This is the average. That's incredible, okay? That's a huge. Then nonverbal went from 65 to 75. I mean, if you can raise 5%, I mean, that's okay. 10 is great. This is incredible, okay? And again, from 64 to 78. Another thing that they did for me was just putting together 92% of our children improved in all 4 areas. That's huge, okay? 92 in the percent in quantitative, 77% in nonverbal, 92% overall improved in their scores. So of these, improvement in multiple areas, 77% of the students improved in all 4. 8%, if you add this all up, it comes to 100. 8% improved in 3. Okay, these 8% improved in 2, 8% improved in 1, and no one failed on any of the tests. I love this chart they also provided for us. At first I'm like, okay, what exactly is it? The pre is where the kids were first. And obviously you want to get as many as you can at this end of the range. Notice how down in here, our kids were doing okay. We had, in the 20s, right in here. Well, now I didn't have any here. Our lowest scores was in the 30s, so this jumped up already. These moved forward even, and the majority are in the 80s and 90s.
Of what now? Whatever.
Percentiles. When you talk about IQ scores, to give you an example, what that means is when you're young, you take IQ scores, and you have a lot of historical data that IQ scores are unchanged, right? But if you go through this process, you translate that really into IQ scores. To give you an example, I don't have the exact number here, but what they did when these students are operating at the 60th percentile, and they jumped up to the 80th and 90th, they just moved hundreds of thousands of students ahead of where they were before. So when you go to a high poverty, low income, like we've had operating in the 50th percentile, they're all in 60 plus. But at the 50th, 55 percentile, we moved them from the 55 percentile in 11 weeks to the 70th percentile. So we moved those kids 450,000 students ahead of their peers or where they were. And you probably know, but I'll just repeat. If you're operating at the 70th percentile from the beginning, the percentage-wise, the likelihood that child's going to finish their high schooling jumps off the charts exponentially. The likelihood that child's going to do some schooling after high school jumps off. That's like the magic number. Your chances of being a winner jump dramatically when you're operating at the 70th. Not to say that a 50th or 55 percentile can't get somewhere, but it's going to be a lot of heavy lifting for them. A lot of extra work for the teacher, for the student. The chances are they're not going to continue. And that's why this is so important. It just changes the complexity of that student's opportunities from a life of what we call chance to a life of choice.
And like on this chart here, it really showed how we had dropped in the lower. We had more kids in this area. Now we're jumping up into the higher range. Again, and then they compare it to other schools in our area. So this is Pope John Paul, for example, and these were the other school districts in that.
That we had done with other places.
Right, other places. So this, on average, percentile would go up 12 to plus or 16. I love this, is my favorite column, obviously. Most schools are between 9 and 17 points. Ours were between 22 and 21, okay? So this is where we were the strongest.
Yeah, you have good students.
Yeah, we do. And I just really quickly on Nativity, they also are taking, they are involved with BrainWare Safari. The program says you can improve their cognitive abilities between 1 and 4 years. This kind of shows it. These are individual students. And this child, the blue is the pre-test,
Now,
okay?
did they do third grade, excuse me, did they, was third grade also?
No, I think they have, well, third and fourth graders. Third and fourth graders, okay? And what they did here was, you can see the year of growth, as far as, let's see, here we go. The average from fall to winter, 1 to 10 years, 1 to 2 years, 1 to 9 months, 4 months, and so forth. But these guys really, this one in here, he jumped like almost 4 years worth.
Well, it says 10 years. It said on the post-assessment, they scored an average of 10
10
years
years,
and
8
8
months.
months. An increase of 1 year and 3 months in the 10 week. I mean,
In a 10-week program.
yeah, what they did was off the charts.
Yeah, 1 year and 3 months. So, and they're going to be talking tomorrow at Bethany more in detail.
Now, are you still just doing a 10-week, or are you carrying it all the way through the whole year?
Oh, no, it doesn't go through the whole year.
Just those 10
Yeah,
weeks?
just
Yeah.
10 weeks. No,
block.
no.
Now, let me
And
tell
then they
you,
go right back into library and everything else. So they just do it that time. Yeah, so we're pre and post testing this group too, so we can.
It's one
see-
time. So if we try, the goal is to try to get 40 sessions. And if the average child goes to school 4,000 hours a year, so you're looking at 1% one time. Because, and you say, well, is it sustainable? Well, there's two ways. Okay, here's a good question. I was saying, we haven't got a lot of time. The most complicated thing you'll ever do cognitively is learn how to walk. I'm just going to give you, I'm not going to ask you this. You'll learn how to walk. Everything you do. And my question is, have you forgotten how to walk? Now, you do it subconsciously. It's automatic. The brain just, it doesn't, like when I'm talking to you, you've never said once sitting here, how do I not understand what he's saying? You've never had a conversation with anyone and said, how do I not understand what he's saying? That's not normal. It's not natural. Your brain automatically seeks two things, pleasure and organization. Automatic. You don't have a control. It automatically seeks understanding and pleasure. So if you've got the right path, it's not going to say, let's don't go the right path, let's go the wrong path. It's going to go the quickest way to understanding. So if you're properly structured, it's going to travel automatically to the fastest path of understanding. Now, so you say, does it stay? As long as the brain is active. Now, if that child never goes to school and sits and smokes dope in the corner for the next 6 years, it's not sustainable. But if they're active, as they say, use it or lose it, if they're actively engaged in their life, it's going to stay. Okay? So, and this is one of the things we're doing. John Hopkins just came to us, and they said, Roger, we can no longer ignore you. Your research is too overpowering. We've got to do research. She says, you can tell everybody, and in my opinion, John Hopkins is the #1 mind-brain school in the world. And they're going to be doing research with us. And one of the things they want to see is this sustainability, because she says, what's the difference? If it doesn't sustain, you just keep doing BrainWare throughout the year, so you got those road paths and you're getting that knowledge in there. You get it in there one way or the other. And if it does work, you don't have to do it, but if it does, you're just going to keep buying more BrainWare. What some teachers are doing now, this is new for them, they're called, I don't know, I never heard of this term, spiraling. So what they do is they do it in the second grade or the third grade. If they do it in the third grade, then that same group of students do it again in the 5th grade, then they do it again in the 7th grade, then they do it again in the 9th grade, then they do it again in the 11th grade, all over the
gonna
place.
try that.
Which is where I would think I would want to go.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's
I never,
This year,
that's just not happening just now. I've
Our
never seen.
5th graders that did it this year were our first set of 3rd graders.
Yeah, okay, all right. I'm seeing that more and more.
Yeah, we're going to do it with our 5th graders this year. So you're going to compare those scores to our current 5th graders and see the difference. We've already noticed.
Who you have and who you didn't have.
Yes.
That'd be a good
And,
variable.
and
We just have
what
this
was
5th grade class, we
interesting,
knew new kids come in, they were exact 3rd grade class, it worked out really well.
See, I'd like to have new ones, just to see.
Yes.
You know what I mean, I'd like to
Yeah,
have
they
a
very
variable
well
in there, yeah.
And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
if you guys are interested, we can always help you with universities that are looking. This is becoming the game of the play. And so I'm sure there's grant funding, there's universities that want to come in and do the research and stuff.
yes, keep us in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see the program real quick.
This is literally how it looks when the kids log in. It comes up as you Roger and Ludo always talking, and they make me look stupid in front of all of you by actually playing.
I'm not playing these.
But I only pick games I'm good at. When I do the demos, everybody's like, you're so good at it. I'm like, you think I'm going to pick something I'm not good at? Please. The first thing that children do is they pick a character. There are actually 4 characters to choose from. And Lou kind of already touched on it, but you'll notice that they're in a diaper with a bottle. That's because, as she mentioned, that character is going to mature with you. The more levels you complete, the more mature your character is. You get a license, a skateboard, a jump rope, and you'll hear the kids say, are you driving it? Are you driving it? It's funny how they refer to them, are you jumping rope yet? It's big for them to kind of, to get more levels so they can go. I'm going to jump out of the Jungle Resort and kind of show you. If you highlight the eye at the bottom, it actually highlights all the games, so it's easy for the children to kind of find them and see where they are. But the Jungle Resort, I always refer to it as the brain of the game, because it's the central hub. There are safari settings. I always point this out to teachers that are coaches. Some children may be sensitive to certain sounds. You're more than welcome to change that. There's the male and female voice settings, and I had a woman say to me once that she had a child that was heavily abused by his mother, and he couldn't take the female voice reading it. And I thought, oh, never thought about that, so they actually used the male voice for him. It's things like that that you don't think of, but you know, when you talk to other people. And then, of course, with Whispering Waterfall, there is an easier selection. Now, I always say a teacher must not have been in development that they can change their own passwords. I had changed password back from Poopy Heads a couple weeks ago. I would like that feature taken out, and Roger knows this. I've harped on it for 4 years. But that is another feature that the passwords can be changed. Safari Progress, there is a coach's account that you can log into and see the children's progress, but this is how they self-monitor. Every time they pass a level, the bar goes from silver to gold. Now, when I sat for the demo 4 years ago, and we were looking at the program, and it was Sarah, so I never tell her it's her, I ignored, they mentioned the statement of, you have to try all the different games. I did not listen. Our students loved it. I was like, have fun. Every kid went to the one game they were good at and sat there. So the other gal that was doing it with me, we came up with the idea that at first, every kid has to do every single level 1. I just want to know where they're at. Then they do every single level 2. Well, that doesn't last because their weaknesses and strengths come out. But at least by that point, the kids are consciously saying, oh, I've done 4 levels here, but 1 level here, I better go try. And it was making the kids rotate out the games. And it worked much, much better for us once we put that rule in place. I'll take you out and show you a couple of the games, and then we actually have some 3rd and 5th graders that are probably heading over to the lab in a minute, and they're going to log in, and we're going to take you all over there so you can kind of talk to the kids and see them logging in also. I'll show you Piranha Pass because I'm actually very good at it. Only for demonstration. Only for the demonstration, I can actually go to any game, any level. The children are actually directed back to the last level they were on, but I'll take down level 1. One of the things that sold me on the game that I really liked is the way they did the instructions. I loved it. You can simply read it. You can sit here and just read the words for yourself. Do you ever find
So
it hard
that's
to
your,
get the right distance?
so that's your visual learner.
That's
will
your
just
visual
read it.
learner. The other way is you can listen to it.
Do you ever find it hard to pick the right distance and direction?
I loved it, hence the headphones, plus you also heard the background. And then my favorite way, which is actually my preference as a learner, you click on the arrow and came up step by step. As a child growing up, I thrive by step. I still, I just said to my kids this morning, there's 3 steps. You brush your teeth, you put your teeth. I even teach that one. So when I saw that in the game, I wish somebody would have done that for me when I was a child learning, because I know I would have just gone nuts for it. And again, those steps can be read to you, so I really like the way they did the instructions. And the other thing is the skills. How many times do students say to you, why are we doing this? Well, here's why you're doing it. And I like that it was broken down for the children. You know, if you said to a student, oh, it uses a visual motor integration, you know, they'd sit there and stare at you. But it put it in words that they understand. Well, that's the ability to write, draw, do 2 things at the same time. So I really like the way that they did the skills.
It's great for the teachers.
And these are the skills only being used in Piranha Pass, not the whole game. So this reference back to the pages you already have. They broke it down in here also. So I'll kind of show you how it is. If they click the Start Challenge, as Lou had already mentioned, you're trying to get the man to the raft. Another thing we point out, yes, students, he's in a Speedo. Let's move on. You see the giggles. I've got to get him to the raft. If I bump into a piranha, it eats me. If I don't make it to the raft, I drown. Now the white lines along the top and bottom are going to be my guides, and they're in increments of 50, so I can use them. In the input direction box, I need to tell him where to go. So I'll put in the letter L, because I'm going to tell him that I want him to go left. And then I have to figure out how far. So I may say 1, 2, so I'm going to tell him to go left 200. I'm gonna put in a D, so I'm gonna tell them to go down, we'll say 150, and then I'll tell them to go left again, 25. And then I can go over and I can check my answer. And you can see the students like, as they're waiting to see where their man goes, oh, right into a corner. All right, not as good at it today. So you can see.
Well, you saw it coming. So
Yeah. So you can see how it uses the kids. Now, I always recommend that you use a mouse, but we have all kinds of gadgets plugged in, so my mouse is over there. I try and do it on the touchpad, but it is really hard. So that's why I do say you definitely want an external mouse if you're doing it. It definitely makes it easier. One of the games that I like that we didn't necessarily mention was Turtle Recall. I just found this game fascinating the first time I saw it. It shows the kids these shapes. Circle 1, square 2, triangle 3, circle 1, square 2, triangle 3.
And memorize it.
They have to memorize
Memorize it.
and they cannot log back into this game for 12 hours. It locks them out. You go back and it says, sorry, time's not up yet. After
Tomorrow
12
we're gonna
hours,
test it.
Yeah, after 12 hours, they can test it. But I get to go back in now, because it's a demonstration
So
version.
the next time she goes in,
This is what they see.
now you
And
can
have
say
to
what it
follow.
is.
So, oh wait, that square was 2, so I could click on 2, the circle was 1, the triangle was 3, and every level, they actually add a shape and a number, but they're kind. The circle stays 1, the square stays 2, the triangle stays 2. They don't mess it up on you. But to watch the kids do this, 12 hours later, you'll see some kids really struggle with it, and you'll see other kids be like, that was so easy, the circle is 1, I mean, so it's really interesting to kind of watch the kids go through, and of course, I see these in my sleep as many times as I've done this, so I'm used to doing it with a mouse. And I'll show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like when you actually pass a level. That's when that character comes out, and it's going to congratulate you.
Hey, good job.
Instead of player, it has the student's name, so it addresses them. And then that's where the kids see the skateboard and the jump rope and so forth. So that game, I was very impressed by it. I like the way it locked them out. Web weaving is another one that just, the kids love it, but to me, it was one of the first games I saw where I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot even imagine all the parts of the brain it's using. It's as simple as this. We all have to memorize that shape. It goes away. Now I have to click to the rhythm 5 times.
See, by clicking and listening, it's making
Metrodome.
that brain pause.
Now I have to go and I have to recreate that shape. Now there's a couple things that could have happened there. I could have, I could have forgotten the shape. I could have counted to 6 and clicked too many times. There's so many things that could have happened where the kids are like, oh, that's just a game. That's a lot. But the kids just do it. I mean, you know, they're used to just devouring video games. So I thought that one was another really fascinating one. I know the kids, I just heard them walk by, so I think they're going to the lab and logging in.
Yeah.
But that kind of gives you an idea of some of the different games. I
Oh,
always show
well,
this one
you
too.
can-
If I took a poll of all the kids and I said, we've put over 130 kids in the program at this point, I say, what's the hardest game out of all of these? They always say sky scanning.
Really? That's one of the best.
Yeah.
Is it
That's why easy.
sky scanning? I've seen
Kids
kids
can't get it. I
down
can do
to
it.
Auditory
Yeah.
process.
You're going to hear 3 numbers being read.
31, 80, 29.
31, 80, 29. And now I can go click on them in the
31's
sky.
the top.
Thank you. I was about to switch out to this. 31, 89, right?
80.
Oh, 80.
Yeah.
80. And then what was after 39?
29 to the right.
As a team, we could do it, guys.
And I've never really made it higher than like level 3 on this game. So I was asking one of the students, and he said, as you get up, he said, they start playing noises and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And he said, so then you have to find the numbers as they're playing noises. I said, oh, any mother could do that. I can talk on the phone, ignore my children, make dinner, and full on at the same time. But they said that it was really hard for the kids because they're not used to those external noises while they're doing something. But to watch the kids do level 7 on this, I'll just show you quickly.
I got a kick out of the one boy, just
Don't
there's a
feel
baby
bad.
crying in the background. I couldn't stand it. I'm like, oh, that's a piece of cake.
Yeah. To show you level 7, and I always say, and when I do the demos, sometimes I hesitate to show people level 7 because they look at it and they go, oh, my students can't do this. That's their first comment. And I said, but you have to understand, they've been building the skills all along, and just because it looks hard to you doesn't mean it's hard to the kid that's sitting
I'm
next to you.
amazed.
But everybody has to start at level, no matter how smart you think you are, you have to start at level
Yes.
1
Yep.
for everybody.
Everybody starts level 1. So this is level 7 in sky scanning. Let's see how you do now as a group.
T, C, L, I, W, S.
Yeah, good luck. And the kids always say, we have paper and pencil, and
Nope.
I'm like, defeats the purpose. So that's always the joke. But I've watched kids sit there and just do this. And to me, it's so difficult. So,
Yeah.
yeah, our
Don't feel
students,
bad.
math standing is the one game that they really struggle with.
We're going to take a break for a minute, go across the hall, because the kids have about 15, 20 minutes before they're dismissed, and then we'll come back in and finish up, all right? So let's just walk across the hall, and I'll introduce you to the kids.
We're going to show you the reports that are so you can see the ones then you can teach them more.
Break up,
Association Special Ed did a big report, and they wanted to talk about what they did. The report was out there to unpack the process, unpack the teaching and learning process, so we can see very specifically what is taking place, so we can be much more strategic in applying our resources of time to drive the desired outcome. Because when you get a kid, you just go at it. You got your lesson plan, you don't know what's going on there. So this allows you a window to what's happening, what their strengths, what their weaknesses, or what do we need. Then you need another tool. So, oh my God, I need this tool. Well, I need to do this with this kid. No. Whatever it might be. There are other tools that you add on to reinforce
I
it.
didn't know they had all the research.
Oh my God. Hey, you're amazing. I mean, you were amazing. That was amazing. That was amazing. I saw that on that article right there. How are you gonna remember that? That was wild.
Something like this would really, and they have one high school, and they have we thought it was important for you just to see the children and how that they work in the room. What the teachers love about the program, there's really no change in your curriculum at all. Okay? The lesson plans, no unit plans, because the children come in and, you talk to your coaches, you give them a basic lesson of how to go in and coach. The data collection is done by the company. I have to show you this because we didn't even have a chance to talk about it. There's the coach's view. Okay, so the coach, your teacher will get this. You see, BrainWare is watching right now those kids online and keeping track of when they log in, when they log on, how many times they have attempted the game. This data is incredible. See? So I can tell, for example, on this student, exactly, it took them 14 to on a pass. Oh, heck, it's better than me. Okay, 18 attempts on the first time, but like here, on the Memory Mountain, only 4 times. So you can see where their strengths and weaknesses are, right here. You're looking for data of differentiated instruction. All you have to do is pull this up. These 4 students need this. These 6 students need this. You've got concrete data sitting right there in front of you. What is also nice is the parent, you give these out when, Abby, for the parent report?
At the beginning, I usually do about every week, and then I do about every other week, and I highlight, weaknesses, strengths, and write notes on it and stuff, and then send them.
Well, that's great.
So it really keeps the...
I tell the parents, even though they're not here during the day, we need them to say to their child, how are you doing? What levels are you on? Where are you at? Talk to me about it. It's important to have them
to
motivate
get
their
that
child
support.
also. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, the information that the company supplies is really incredible. And you can fit it into anyone's schedule. Right now we're doing 3rd grade. The homeroom teacher, like I said, that's taking 1 math period for that time because there is so much math in it. The computer teacher takes one of the computer classes, and the media special uses one of the periods. So that's how it fits in with the minutes. Again, you can have an after-school program, but I even tell the parents, I said, if you want, you can just buy it at home and do it yourself. But I've got news for you, it ain't gonna work.
They don't follow through.
They don't follow through.
Kids know how to work with parents.
Oh, and you know what? You all start with good intentions. We're going to do it 3 times a week, no matter what. Oh, but we have to go to Aunt Betty's tonight, so we'll pick up and make up for it. Oh, we forgot we just... And we had one parent in the afternoon program, one student. The parent came in and says, oh, this program isn't working, and we looked at her attendance, okay? She left after school. She started dropping out. I said, there's a direct correlation with the success and the attendance. It's real simple. So if you schedule it during the day, you've got a captive audience. You know, it
Parents
really-
out of the equation.
Yes,
We
it
thought it
does.
was the hardest for us.
Can I ask, I mean, is there, in your future, like when you're looking at, now it's a packaged program,
Mhm.
but, as you see things come up or even updating, I mean, do you see?
That happens automatically. Once you turn off that program, any updates are automatic. When you flip it back on again, it's automatic because the majority of it sits on our servers. So we get news, whatever we get that's new, that's valuable, that's going to be something good, or somebody finds something wrong with it, we automatically update it automatically. So you turn it off, automatic updates come. You don't even know that they're coming.
Would there ever be the possibility of additional games? or
Yes,
different
yes,
areas?
that's the next thing. Once you get to the part, okay, now they've done it all.
Right.
We're working on that right now. We're also working on different graphics. We just finished
School, high school kids.
high school,
I
college.
was thinking.
Yeah, we got, for example, we're a small company, so we focus on education. I'm just going to be very frank. We don't focus on the consumer. We don't, workforce development, we think is an enormous opportunity for us. The military is going to be, we're working now with CASL, the Center for Advanced Study of Languages, at the University of Maryland. After 9/11, there's been an enormous effort for all of our intelligence agents, NSA, FBI, CIA, to teach all of the Chinese and Arabic dialects. And what they've learned, that and they know a lot about teaching languages. The military and the Secret Service, they don't need a lot of people to teach them how to teach foreign languages. They got that down. And no, they don't use Rosetta Stone. They say that's the biggest bucket of crap in the world. We would never give that to anybody. I said, well, it says on the TV that you got there. And he says, that's some low-ranking colonel that probably took a few bucks on the backside, and he'd buy it and give it away to children of non-officer ranking, to their children to play when they go into a new country. We would never use that seriously for our intelligence agencies and all that. So Dick will tell you straight out, he's a tough guy. But, so they brought us in. What they're doing is this is what we recognize. And this is what I said earlier, but he says it differently. This is how he says it. An instructor's ability to instruct is in direct relationship to an instructee's ability to be instructed. So in teacher vernacular, a teacher's ability to teach is in direct relationship to the student's capacity to be taught. And if you don't recognize that there's a direct relationship there, you're always going to be pulling uphill. And so that's why they brought us in, because you got to have their attention, you got to have the process. And they said, I can't believe you guys have figured this out. I got to tell you a funny story there about John Hopkins when they called me. They said, they've been looking at our work, and I met her, the lady in charge of John, and she'll be at the congressional briefing. She said, Roger, your research is too compelling. We can't ignore you anymore. You violate everything we teach. You do it totally different than everybody else does it. You're the talk of the community, but we can't ignore you anymore. And she said, but let me tell you why universities have been fearful of it. First, we don't like to do anything unless it's our own stuff. Your product's already done. If we do this research and it works, then we're essentially endorsing the product, and we have a mental block. Even if it's going to save our world, we're going to save ourselves and not the world. You understand where we're coming from. There's nothing pure about the academic world. I said, okay, so the second problem people have with you is your product is so comprehensive and so integrated in a structure. We were never taught to do research that way. We do research by breaking things down to the smallest possible component and then drill down. My God, I mean, where would we begin to take your product apart to drive really any significant value? It's comprehensive and it's integrated. To pull, it could take us 50 years to prove or disprove what you're already showing works. She said, Roger said, I'd be willing to bet you do not even know why your product works so well. I said, you're right. We don't. We really don't. We really don't. All we can say is, we don't like testing. What kind of, any nationalized norm test, we don't care. We're going to knock it out of the park. We know that if you get fidelity, we're going to win. So, but that's, I thought you might find a couple of little stories. Do you want to talk about the congressional thing?
Wait, just a minute. What I love, like you said, the coach's report provides information. So now you've got some data for your differentiated instruction for your teachers. You've got some concrete stuff. What other program covers all of these cognitive skills? I mean, I've really been looking at other programs. I'm having a real hard time finding anything else on the market. Even Fast Forward only works on certain things. It is not as comprehensive as this. And it's a fraction of the cost, that's for sure. There's for the children. I want to show this. Let me see if I can get it to run. This is the important role of the coach.
Which is the easiest game for you? I can tell you which one it is. Which do you think it is?
These two.
Okay, yes, that's true. Of the ones with the bars, though, which one is the easiest?
Turtle.
Recall. Okay, so that one's telling me what? That your brain's very strong in that area. Okay, but what is this game supposed to be working on? What our brain is really weak at, right? Okay, so what one is one of the hardest ones?
Rain Rabbit and Whispering Waterfall and Sky Scanning.
Yes. So see what I really like about what you're doing is how you keep it absolutely level. Look at this. This is perfect. This is great, but obviously which one is your hardest?
Sky Scanning.
Yeah, but you know what? You've already got 2 levels done. That's excellent. So, and then you almost have a perfect program here because you're all the way up to level 4 in just about every one.
Yeah, so I'm trying to do Whispering Waterfall. I'm doing just exactly what it says, but you keep on saying it's wrong.
Okay, so what this is saying is that's really hard for your brain, isn't it? All right, but you're doing so good in these others. Look at this Jungle Labyrinth. You're way ahead here, but we have to go back. Sky Scanning is a tough one too, isn't it? All right.
And so is this one, Tic-Tac-Toe.
Oh well, you're doing pretty good. But always go back. Okay, even here, the cave comparison. Look, see this one. This is what? This is where your brain is real strong. Okay. All right, so we don't need to do that one.
I used to have trouble on Piranha Pass, but now I got it.
But now you got it, all right? So that's what's going to happen with these other ones, too. Go back to there. Don't go on to any second level until we go back to Slytherin, and then you can go back up and then back.
Now, you cannot go on, right? You can't start on a level 6. Or could you?
What do you mean?
When you're saying there's so many levels within these 17
No, you have to start
you
one.
have to start.
Yeah, because what happens is this, you build your skill level, you're kind of like in a video game.
Right.
Your
but I
skills
just
you
know-
develop level 1 will get you to level 2. The skills you develop 2 will get you to 3. Believe me, I tried to be clever because we have Abby and I have cheat. We go. And I
It does
tried
nothing for
to
you.
do it myself when I first started. I'll just jump up.
Right, start at 8.
Start, back up, shut up, sit down, and go back to 1. I mean,
And the reason,
I
if you stop and think how those neurons are
But I'm just
functioning
saying,
in your head.
but in the program, you were actually able to get on to number 8?
No.
Only him, only him.
Okay.
because he-
No, the
yeah.
program
No.
makes you stay.
And the
Okay.
reason the program really needs to be designed that way is because as soon as you try playing that first game, here's a whole neural network set up, okay? Now you're playing level 2, it's the same thing plus a little more. Then you do it again, it's the same thing plus 2 more.
It's called cognitive load.
And it keeps growing that whole span until you've got that whole thing. So you can imagine that beginning piece is the most important and strengthens those skills
Each time.
each time. That's why I said to him, I said, that's why we're starting, with the 5th graders. We're trying our own little kind of research here. If they've already done it once, what would happen if we did it again and started from scratch? And so we've seen kids cut their scores in half. They're doing it in half the time. So those neural networks are really strong. So I can see this really developing into further and further to really advance the kids that way. What parents love about the program, there's no extra work on their part. Just watch for subtle changes. We asked in particular, is there anything that you notice, at home, and some kids might, parent might say, I really haven't noticed anything. Maybe you don't. Okay, but a lot of them like that memory piece of being able to memorize that math problem and transpose it onto another. Better understanding of why the teacher is using differentiated instruction. Family gets to keep up with the program. The FILA license can easily work over Christmas vacation. See, we did that also because if you have a break in there, you think, oh, I don't want to go 2 weeks, they can do it at home. They can do it at grandma's. Okay? Which is great, and then that keeps it nice and strong.
So the way you've got your program started right now, you have it all in school, but they wouldn't be able to access, they wouldn't be able to
What we've
access.
always done is after it's done and we've done our final testing, so we don't obscure test results, we've allowed the children to take it home and log in from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, we've sold we got about 75,000 consumers that have bought it from. You can go online right now and buy the product. But if you go online and buy the product, I think if you do a download, it's $150. If you get the whole unit, it's like $180, $190. But in school, it's a lot less.
So we went through all of that. This was nice too, is that they provided, this was when they did the final results, our pre and post testing for the COGAT. They printed this all up for our parents, so they could see this child went from a 75 to an 84, a difference of 9 points. Again, 77 to 92, went 15 points. These are excellent scores to see the difference of the COGAT skills. What's
Can I be the
the
devil's advocate?
Sure.
What if you just had a kid take, not do BrainWare and take it to Colgate second time, 10 minutes?
When we do, that's called controlled studies.
Right.
All of our peer reviewed research is done that
Is
way.
this something?
Now, we would like to do it that way all the time, but you have a problem when you go into schools.
Right.
They don't like to have some kids get it, some
Yeah,
kids
yeah,
not get
you
it.
guys know.
You got, as I said, you got to think about your environment. We're flexible on our end. We want to work with you. So if you have a way that you want to do it, our job is to try to find a way to accommodate you. So if you'd like to do that in some of your schools, we can do random. So we've done random
But if
selection.
you've already done it, then that's.
Yeah, we've
If
done a
you
lot
go to
of.
the website, it's all on there.
Yeah, we've done that. And matter of fact, Learning Disabilities magazines, I just got notice it's being published this month of a whole new study with students with specific learning disabilities, which you know about 50% of your special ed population is that group. And as you know, did I talk about this already?
I don't know.
All right.
No,
But-
no, finish.
Well, no, I don't know what.
Okay, well, I don't want to, I'm getting old, I repeat myself.
You're talking to someone over there, but not to the whole.
All right, if I repeat myself, just say shut up. Okay. But what we did with that, the university did, they went in with this, as you know, with SLD, specific learning disabilities, typically there's not a lot of great expectations and typically there's not a lot of great outcomes. Typically, I say that typically, I'm thinking generalities. I don't know each school here and how each person does what they do, so I can't speak to any authority of that. But this, and typically they do a lot of workarounds, they develop a lot of accommodations for these populations. The Woodcock-Johnson full battery cognitive achievement test, they got 2 points, the research, 2.7 years of cognitive growth in 11 weeks. This has never happened in the history of education, never been demonstrated. Secondly, they got close to a year in math and close to a year in reading. This is, it's unheard, never, you're gonna see this in Learning Disabilities magazine this month, published peer reviewed research. That fits your criteria.
Nativity used Woodcock-Johnson. So they got some really good.
The COGAT is, a lot of people like the COGAT, it's by the same at River Deep. You can do it, it's nationally normed as well, and it's a four-man score. You can go to a classroom and give it to the whole class, and it's, the cost is a lot less
Yeah, because we
expensive.
pay for that anyway, so I just paid for the one extra test at the end. It was great.
We typically do that now because, you know,
You just can't afford it.
Yeah, and after you've done it so well, you know it's there, so.
But the children love it, obviously, because especially during the school day. I mean, they even did it after school, but there's a lot of times, you know, they want to go to the sports program, whatever. So ideally, they love it in technology because they feel like the computer games in school, and it's fun. It's helping them in class. Roger, I'm just going to let you close. Basically, you know, talk a little bit about the how businesses, the one business has used it, and any suggestions or ideas from you guys how Title I. Well, you've already talked about the special
Yes,
ed quite a
the
bit.
budgets, as you said, that research is there, and there's a research section on our website that you can look at your leisure. If you want to contact me directly, I'd be more than happy to share. You want to talk to some teachers, you want to talk to some doctors, you want to talk to some scientists, whatever you want to talk to. If you're a special ed person, you want to talk to another director of special ed. If you're a director of what do they call the ESL, ELL, pardon me? Yeah, if you're a director, we got people you can talk to. The big thing there is, it was interesting today, we're now speaking with Dr. Catherine Salinos, I forget her last name. She was the former undersecretary of the U.S. Department of Education, and she's the one that really blew out this whole ESL, ELL stuff. She was under Bush, last Bush, and now she's bringing all the policy work for how ESL is dealt with in the schools now with NEA and AFT. She found us, and she is just absolutely blown away, and she wants to do more research with us, and she's in the process now of aligning us to everything with ESL. Because we've done 11 weeks, as the director said, we did in 11 weeks, but it takes them 2 years to get done. That's the kind of acceleration they saw here with this program. And obviously gifted, Title I, at-risk, it's just.
What was the company? Was that Exxon?
What happened is Chevron Corporation.
Chevron.
Now, it's an interesting thing. They're dealing, in this particular group, we got like a lot of companies call us. We don't chase companies yet. We don't have the resources, so we're focused on education, as I said. But we do feel the opportunity when somebody calls in and they want to explore, we work through that process with them.
And in this particular case, the mother, the lady called the industrial psychologist, had a son that had a problem. And I had met her through the International Association of Accelerated Learning. I don't know if any of you know that group. It's a pretty highbrow group. I really shouldn't be there, but they have me there anyway. And she was a member of that. She was with Shell, now she's with Chevron. And really, we took her son's life and just turned it around. She was so much, she said, I've got these same problems with people coming to look for jobs. And she's in the oil refinery business. I don't know what you know about oil refineries. I've never been to one. I've seen it on videotape. But this is for council operators. And if this council operator, it makes a 747 look like a tinker toy, what they're doing. And if a council operator makes a mistake, it's like $2, $3, $4 million. It's not a little thing. And so these kids going to be studying to be council operators. They're high school graduates, maybe they get some technical school. It's not a PhD from Harvard, okay? So they have big challenges, and they've gotten pretty good at it. It takes about $125,000, they say, to train them. They train them for 8 weeks. So you got to get hired twice. And they got all the Peter Frigg. I mean, they know how to hire people. Chevron's got no lack of money. So they put the profile, they bring them in at 30 at a time. And then they put them through this 8-week training. Now, you only get hired for the training. Now you have to have a certain proficiency level to get hired as an operator. So this is a real motivated workforce. They typically lose about 10%. So if they bring in 30 and they lose 3 at $125,000 a whack, that's $375,000. They just burnt a match too. So she says, I want to do a study with you because I think you can impact our audit system. So we did a study. Guess what happened? First time ever, every student that they picked to run through the thing passed. They gave me 50, they put 350 in their pocket. We'll make that bet all day long. We're now on our 3rd study with them working. She says, because they're just not getting students prepared that can think and do all the things you got to do. So that's the purpose for it.
Like that. Any other questions or comments?
Do you want to talk about the congressional hearing?
Yeah, you better, yes, you better.
Just quickly, 2 things I'll tell you about. We have been invited to speak on the Hill. We're going to be speaking January 23rd. We will be videotaped to a joint session of Congress. There will be all the national associations. We're getting great response. The National Association of State Directors of Special Ed will be there. The NEA will be there. AFT will be there. The Chief Counsel of Chief State School Officers will be there. The National Association of Elementary Principals. Every association that you're associated with will have a key player there. And another thing that's happening, and I can invite you to this, the National Association of Elementary Principals, I'm sure many of you know this organization. You can go on their website today. They called us up and said, look, we've been looking at this neuroscience in the classroom. We got to get on this bus. We got to get out ahead of it. We looked at everybody. We want you to take the point. So on January 24th, we're going to be conducting it's just what we want. It's totally different what you're going to see here. What we want, Roger, we've been to a lot of brain classes. We see a lot of neuroscience. We've talked to a lot of doctors. But we want real practical hands-on stuff. So when our people get off that webinar, they can walk right into their classroom and start to apply something that's going to see value for them. So it's going to be a little different spin, but we're very honored to be able to take the lead with the National Association of Elementary Principals, and that'll be on the January 24th. But this is the type of stuff that's going on. So we're looking forward to having a lot of great stuff to share with as we move down the road. Yes, ma'am.
Roger, that's a webinar that all elementary principals
Yeah.
are invited to participate in?
Everybody.
And how has that gone out already?
Well, it's on their website right now, and they're getting ready to send out their newsletter. It'll be on their newsletter, and I think they're going to do an email blast. But if you go to their site right now, you can see it, and we're going to promote it as well. So everybody here that wants to see it, I will send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to do the other. It's exciting time. So that's a couple of things.
Okay, let's not forget the drawing. I think it's that
Okay.
time. All right. Do I have everybody's in here? I've got yours too, right?
There you go.
Okay, pick a number between 1 and 14.
14, you said?
Yep.
1 to 14. Generate number.
The lucky number is 4. Now I have to go through here and find number 4. Oh, there it is.